Welcome to another episode of Side Quests. We have a special guest today. He's a philosopher who likes to foray into literature. You guys will know him from Park Notes, Parker's Pensée, or even from one of his 10,000 other YouTube channels. Parker's got a really interesting Substack that I've been checking out where he writes short stories and he blogs. He does these really philosophical short stories. He does wrestling and jujitsu, and he's like very buff and stuff like that. If you guys can't tell, welcome, Parker. I appreciate this.
Thanks, man. That was a heck of an intro. I appreciate
I
that.
try. I try. So let's actually start with this. Why don't I have you introduce yourself? Because this is actually my first time meeting you through the screen here, and so this is also probably a lot of my viewers' first time as well. So who are you? What are your intellectual interests and background? What sorts of things do you explore on your various myriad channels
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So, who is this guy, Parker?
Yeah, man. I'm a wrestler. Like I grew up wrestling since first grade, big part of my life. You can't see because I got the headphones on, but I got some pretty nice cauliflower ears going on. That's like who I always wanted to be. That was the identity that I wanted. My brothers, we all started wrestling at the same time, but they're 8 years and 6 years older than me. So they would just used to womp on me, and I was like, "Fine, dude, I'm gonna beat you guys down. Like I'm gonna finally get there." So that was always who I wanted to be. I always had a lot of interests, a lot of like my own side quests. I loved turtles growing up and catching grasshoppers, frogs, all that. But that didn't really fit with the view of like a wrestler that I had in mind. So that was all side stuff. I didn't want anyone to know about that. My mom made me do band and choir because she didn't want me to be a meathead, and she made me take fencing and stuff like that. But I'm like, no, I want to be a meathead. So yeah, it wasn't until college that I was like, you know what, dude, I'm just gonna embrace all the weird things about me that I like. I wrestled in college. I just finally became comfortable with myself and like, hey, there's a lot of stuff that I'm really, really into. I'm just gonna dive into that and see what's up. And so, yeah, some people will know like I have a lot of different YouTube channels. I'll never ever beat my first one, which is I have a video on giant African bullfrogs.
I've seen that. That's incredible. So you have a channel that
Yeah,
is called like Parker's Swamp or something
that's
like
right. That's
that.
right. Yep.
And like I just saw you with Parker's your philosophy discussion channel, Parker's Pensée, and I thought that was your channel. And then like other things started popping up in my feed, and one of them was a video that was viewed like 38 million times.
That's right.
That's
Crazy.
like famous pop star level of views. How did that happen?
Dude, so I work for a Christian ministry as well, for student athletes, and that was a big part of. I listened to your video on becoming a reader and how reading changed your life. Same thing happened with me, but through like C.S. Lewis and reading the Bible and stuff. Uh, but after I wrestled in college, after I was done, I had all this free time because I'm like, man, you have to cut weight, you have to do all this stuff that takes up all your time as a student athlete. So I'm like, God, there's so much free time, and I saw Life, the Planet Earth like adjacent series, and there was these frogs, and they were like attacking each other and wrestling and throwing each other. And I was like, bro, a wrestling frog, I need that. So I bought some. They're actually like they're not exotic at all. They're called pixie frogs. That has to do, that's their Latin name is Pixie-cephalus adspersus, and it's because they have a little head. But they're huge, dude. It's the second biggest frog in the whole world. So people buy them thinking they're cute little frogs. Pixie, oh nice, but they grow huge. So I had those, made a video about them, eating dubia roaches, which are like cockroaches. I actually have a phobia of cockroaches, so I bred the dubia ones, which are tropical. If they escape, they die. They can't take over your house. But I was trying to do immersive therapy for myself It didn't work at all. I had nightmares of them taking over, so that was bad. But I put the video up, went to Puerto Rico for a year to work with this ministry. And I was in Puerto Rico in a gym at a university and I saw someone watching my frog video. And I was like, dude, that's weird. I turned off the comments because they eat mice. So people are like really mad at me. So I'm like, I don't need all this hate in my life. So I turned off the notifications for myself, not the comments. So I had no idea that it was blowing up. And I go back and look at it and had 1 million views. And then some like talent folks were like, hey, we want to monetize it for you. And they reached out to my mom somehow. So it's like really creepy how they can find out all of your information. So that was back in 2015. If I would make that, if I had those views today, I could retire. But back then they paid differently. And I don't even know if this company is like being honest with our split 60-40. So I made a little bit. So I paid for my wife's wedding ring, paid for like a new laptop and some cool stuff. Every now and then I'd get a little check from them, but I'm still chasing that 38 million for Park Notes or Parker's Pensies.
So, how did you get into YouTube or BookTube or Philosophy Tube or whatever it is you'd call it?
Yeah.
What made you want to sit in front of the microphone and speak to audiences?
Yeah. Well, the frog one was just like, I obsess over stuff. I think first and foremost, I'm a researcher. I did strength finders, people may know that. And my first strength is input. I just really, really like input, things coming in. Then belief, and then intellection. So I really like stuff coming in. I really like thinking about what I believe, and I just like thinking about the stuff that's coming in. So yeah, man, I had all this stuff coming in and I was like, I want to put it out there. I don't know why. I just want to get it out there. The frog stuff was like all the frog videos are pretty bad. And I was disappointed because all the stuff I was looking up was like, these are really bad videos. So let me just put something together and just see. It was just a little hobby. But then after that, I got into reading. You actually talked about this in your video, how reading's a skill and how you get better at it.
Yeah.
And it resonated with me when I first picked up reading again. I read as a kid. I read Conan the Barbarian and stuff because
Awesome. Love it.
I wanted to be a wrestler and I wanted to be a barbarian. So I had Frank Franzetta's pictures up on my wall. I finally got those back from my parents and they're going to be up here in the office. But I read that. I would read, a little bit here and there. But then I kind of just gave up when in high school. I was like, no, I'm a jock. I just want to be a jock. That's it. I want to be a stereotype. That's all. So once I got to college and I started reading again, I could read 2 or 3 pages without falling asleep. And then I'd wake up drooling on my book. So it was 3 pages without falling asleep. Cool. Like 4 pages, finally like a chapter. And then I kept powering through it. And all the lessons I learned from wrestling, I just applied those to reading.
Right.
So I'm like, look, man, I won't do it. I know other people don't need this, but I'm going to get through 2 books this month. I'm going to set a reading goal. So I need a page number goal for every day. And then I just became a reader through that. And then I just wanted to talk to people about it. You know how it is. Like you read something, you're like, do you want to talk about this? And your friends are like, no. Like,
That's
can we
right.
just go to something else? Like, no, I need to find someone. So I started studying a lot of theology and philosophy on my own. And then people were like, you need to go to seminary. You need to go to seminary. And I think a lot of people, I had this view that like they were trying to do that to me so that they didn't feel bad. They're like, oh, if you go to seminary, then it makes sense that you read all the time. But if you're just a regular dude in church or whatever, you shouldn't know this theology stuff. So I was really prideful. I'm like, dude, I'm a self-taught, autodidact. But then got married to my wife, found out a month before the wedding that I get free tuition at the university she works at. Just so happens to be like the best evangelical seminary in the world. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to go to seminary and picked up 2 master's degrees for the price of 0 because of my wife. So that was awesome. And I taught I helped one of my professors teach a undergrad philosophy course, and I just loved it. I love teaching undergrads. I love working with college kids. So that really sparked a lot for me to be like, dude, I can talk like a bro because I was trying to be a meathead my whole life, but we can also talk about Dostoevsky. That'd be really fun. We could talk about Pascal and I should note I call it Parker's Pensies. I know it's Pensée, but
I've heard you say that, and I'm like, there's definitely a reason.
yeah.
And so
It's just a trigger. It's just a trigger people because people would get so mad. I feel like when I say Parker's Pensée, I have this Chicago nasally accent, right? And then for me to try to slip into a French accent when I don't speak French, it's goofy. So I use the Americanized version of Pensies, and I get it, it's cringy, but it's a little bit more cringy for me to. I feel like the Karen at the Mexican restaurant who's like, gracias, you know, and you're like, dude, just say thank you, man, you know? So I do that, and a lot of people get upset. My favorite is when people say, don't you know it's Ponces? I'm like, no, it's not. It's Ponce. You're not even correcting me right. So don't just back off, you know? So yeah, that's just a little,
I
that's
knew
a,
immediately that there was something with that you had done intentionally. There's a YouTube channel that I listen to every once in a while. It's Michael Malice, and his show is called You're Welcome, but it's YOUR.
nice.
And then in his introduction, he says, "That's your welcome." And so, yeah, that will that will
Mm.
like discombobulate people, but I totally get it. Depends who you are. I took French for like 8 years. So yeah, it would be more
You have
natural
to.
for,
Yeah, you have
yeah.
to. Like, and it would make sense for you to do that. For me, it's like pretentious, you know?
But what something you said was really interesting to me and reminded me of how seminal, how important identity is for us. Like,
Mm.
and you referenced my video. I was thinking when I made that about how uh, identity stopped me from doing a lot of things. So, for example, when I was in high school, I was a terrible student, not because I wasn't intelligent. In fact, my teachers would say like, "This is crazy that you're getting a C- in my class. Just do something. Will you just?" They would pull me aside, and I'd have to have these meetings with my parents, and the adults would sit in a circle around me and be like, "What is going on? This You shouldn't be getting these kind of grades." And the thing is my identity was slacker. I was into the whole 90s slacker thing,
Hmm.
rocker. I was a pothead in high
Hmm.
school, a little bit, not as bad as some people, but
Sure.
definitely killing a few brain cells. But yeah, my identity was saying school's not your thing. This is not who you are. My mom didn't go to college. Um, I mean, I think she took a few classes, but yeah, I was really, I think, the first person in my family to graduate from college. So, and that expectation wasn't even really there. I remember my parents saying, "You can just, my parents were in the military. You can just join the military like us, or
Mm.
do this or do that. There's plenty out there, And so once you get this identity thing going on, this kind of Sartrean being for others sort of thing, where you're like, who do other people expect me to be? Uh, which identity works? Parker, there's a great. I'm sure you're not big into the atheist existentialists, but there's a great short story. I believe it's from Sartre's collection, The Wall,
Okay.
and there's a story in there called Childhood of a Leader. And it's about this kid. His name is Lucien, if I remember right. And he's living in, it's 1930s France, and he's in Paris. And he's confused. He's not sure what his identity is. He's an outcast. No one likes him. He's confused about his sexuality. There's all this weird identity stuff going on. And he gets invited to this party, and he goes, and there are these fascist youth groups in Paris at the time, obviously,
Mm.
if you know history. And he shows up at this party, and there are these fascist youth group kids there. And the parties, everyone's getting drunk, and eventually someone bumps into Lucien, and it turns out it's this Jewish guy. But Lucien doesn't know that. Just someone bumps into him, and it aggravates him, and he shoves the guy, and the guy shoves him back, and then he punches him and knocks him to the ground. And he's always been this loner, this outcast, this sad kid, and no one's ever really accepted him or liked him. And once he hits this guy to the ground, he wasn't doing it because he was anti-Semitic. It was
Mm.
just he was drunk and they were in a tussle. But these fascist youth group kids come over to him and they start slapping
Mm.
him on the back, and they're like, "Whoa!" And they give him the nickname Lucien, the one who hates Jews.
Wow.
And he goes, "Yeah, maybe I do hate Jews."
Hmm.
Because it feels so good for the first time. And of course, the story's called Childhood of a Leader, and it was Sartre's attempt to explain that the rise of like powerful dictators, usually there's a more complicated backstory that has to
Mm.
do with like these really basic identity construction issues.
Yeah.
And he started seeing himself like, he started saying like, maybe this is who I am. This is the first time I've ever felt good. Maybe
Yeah.
this is who I am. So I think a lot revolves around identity and the boxes we put ourselves in. And it sounds like you smashed through that and you just said, like, I'm going to be what I really am. And I'm not going to let these sort of archetypes, I'm not going to let society box me into these like prefabricated identities. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
it's a dude. The way you said it sounds super heroic, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, you know. And it was a little bit less than that. It was more like I accomplished my dream. I wanted to be a Division 1 wrestler. You know, that's what I wanted my whole life, and I accomplished it. And I was like, look, there's more to life than this. I can only wrestle for so many years. My body's falling apart. You know, giving myself stomach ulcers from cutting weight. Like, this is awesome. I like it, but it's not everything. It's not enough. And part of it, I don't know how much you want to get into like faith stuff, dude. I'm pretty like staunchly Christian. So
Happy
yeah,
to get into faith stuff. I mean, I was
okay.
raised Orthodox Jewish,
Okay.
and so I went to my mom's Jewish, my dad's Christian, but he's a Presbyterian. So is he really a Christian?
It depends. Depends on the
I know.
denomination.
Yeah.
Presbyterian.
Yeah. So I've spent time in church and my wife's a Catholic.
Okay.
But I was raised Jewish and my great grandfather was a rabbi. I went to Jewish day schools. Um, my my grandfather, Chester, was actually in the Jewish mafia.
Dang.
And he went
Wow.
to jail for like 10 years. And then I was bar mitzvahed and so I'm ethnically Jewish and was raised religiously Jewish, but of course, like a lot of Jews who live in the area where I live, I
For
fell
sure.
out of it in college and have been wanting to return to something ever since, and have been flirting with converting to Christianity for a long time, but I
Wow.
feel like an imposter or an outsider, so I don't really know how to do that. In
Hmm.
fact, it was actually Christopher Rocchio who was trying to help me find a church and like do this, and I've just felt like such a phony, so I haven't. Anyways, that's a really
That's
just
awesome,
quick.
dude. Well,
So
I'm gonna
totally
battle
happy to talk
Rockio
about
and try to
religion.
get you. Yeah, I'll try to get you over on the Protestant side. You know, he can get you over into swim the Tiber. Well, so all this to say, man, that was another part of my identity. Was I believed in Christianity. It wasn't like I thought that I was an imposter growing up. There's some stuff like I lived two different lives when I was a kid. Some like mild sexual abuse from this girl who was older than me and woke me up to like sex really young. So I never told anyone because I'm like, this is icky, this is gross, whatever. The part of the country I was in, evangelicals were like, put on your sweater vest and we'll go to church, but we don't talk about the sin that we're supposed to be talking about and confessing to each other. So I was like, fine, you know, you guys are playing little church games. My family like knows the Lord and stuff, but that's it. You know, I don't trust any of you weird Christian people. I don't like your stupid youth groups. I don't want to play the weird games. You guys are rich, weird kids. I'm not like you. So it was always like it always felt like I was a Christian on accident. Like someone like God's like, who told Parker about the gospel or whatever, you know, like why is he in here? So there was that, and I was like, I'm just gonna find my identity in wrestling. That's cool. I believe in God and I'll be a Christian, but I don't like his people at all. So that it wasn't until college when I met some wrestlers who were doing like a Bible study. And I was like, wait, what? You guys are wrestlers. This is not what we do. This is like we acknowledge God, but we don't like confess sin to each other. And these dudes would want me too. I was a freshman. So they were, you know, senior, super senior, beating me down. So I really admired and respected them. And they kind of made it cool. Not cool and like I'm a cool kid. They made it okay to like read my Bible and to be honest and actually to learn what I believed. So a lot of them became Christians in college and they would ask me, "But Parker, you've been a Christian your whole life. Can you help us with the Bible?" I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know, dude. I don't read it like that. Like my dad would always harp on me to read. I'd just open up to the middle and see the book of Psalms, and I just read the same psalm every day. So then I was like, I really need to know what I believe, if I really do believe this stuff. So that was my junior year of college. Really got into like, what does the Bible actually say? Do I really want to believe? I mean, I believe it, but what should I believe? And then that led me to like C.S. Lewis and Screw Tape Letters was the first one that I tried to pick up, and it was impossible for me to read. I had to have a dictionary next to me, or I was Googling words every second, and actually found out that Tolkien was mad at Lewis for writing for a lay audience, and me, I'm like, I'm the dummy. Holy crap! How come I can't understand So imagine if he would have wrote for like the higher, echelon. So yeah, that's kind of I started taking my faith more seriously. I started saying, look, I'm just gonna like what I like. If I like frogs and turtles, cool. I'm gonna do that. I didn't ask to like this stuff, but I do, so I'm just gonna chase it. And yeah, it wasn't really like I'm a hero. It was like, dude, I need something, and I'm kind of just tired. I'm kind of tired of pretending to be someone I'm not. You know what I mean?
And then how did you make that shift into like philosophy? I know you talked about religion and theology
Yeah.
and Christian apologetics. How did it morph into like analytic philosophy and philosophy tube? And because
Mm,
that's really working for you, Parker. Like
mm,
in the videos are quite good. What I like, one of the things I like about your videos is there are people who will make hour and a half long videos diving into the deepest levels of minutiae, and that actually can be really great for people who are like super in the weeds on whatever issue is being talked about. But your videos really just they so far from what I've seen, not your conversations, your like park notes and your philosophy lists, they whet your appetite. They make you excited. They make you want to read.
mm,
What made you shift into that from out of frogs and Christianity
mhm.
and the evangelical world, and like you're a married guy, and you're a dad now, and what made you shift into philosophy? And I think you're going to graduate school for philosophy and
Mm.
all that.
Yeah. Well, so I've been working with college kids this whole time, and they have some really good questions. So I wanted to find out my own answers to stuff. I was always scared growing up that I would ask a pastor the wrong question and he would like lose his faith, and then the whole church would be mad at me for stumping. So I actually didn't ask my questions to people. But then I was like, look, I'm just gonna go search these down, and I got into apologetics, which any Christian philosopher is going to say that's how they started, because they're like, well, how do we defend the faith? And then you just start realizing I need to study some philosophy, but I also need to study some theology. And I'd rather study philosophy and theology than study from apologists. Because apologists are like, here's the answer. And the philosopher is like, I don't know, dude. Like, let's figure this out. Oops, we can't. The world's insane. And no matter where you go to the atheists, you go to the Christians, you go to Jewish philosophers, whoever, the best philosophers they'll expand your mind and they'll leave a bunch of things undone because they're like, dude, I don't know. The world is a crazy place. If we're just material beings, that's insane. If you're just your brain or whatever, what part of your brain? Are you just a couple neurons? What is it? Okay, well, that's crazy, but what's the alternative? Okay, well, you have a soul. Well, how does your soul interact with your body then, dude? Well, maybe panpsychism's true and all the subatomic particles, whatever is at base level, that's conscious. And you're like, well, you mix them all together. Why is there one Parker that comes up and not a billion Parker? Like everyone's view of the world's crazy. And that's super fun for me, dude. I actually really like that. So I got into philosophy and theology because I wasn't really satisfied with a lot of the apologetics answers. And I always wanted to study it for myself. So I learned some Greek, learned some Hebrew, went to seminary. And in seminary, I was just writing analytic philosophy papers, much to my professor's chagrin, because they all like the continental stuff. And I was like, well, I'm only here because I'm getting it for free. I'd rather be studying philosophy. But some of my philosopher like heroes, they all told me to go to seminary and get some theology first. They're like, look, we have enough dudes who are just claiming to be Christians who know nothing about tradition. So finished up my master's in philosophy last semester, I think. Yeah. So, hopefully I'll go on and do a PhD in philosophy as well. I think I was just a philosopher the whole time. I love theology as well, but there's different methods of doing things. I really like the method of philosophy, and I'm now expanding my perspective. I went deep into the analytic world, and I'm like, man, it's really cool. I really like it, but there's some really good stuff that's left out. The whole wisdom tradition is pretty much left out. So actually, Frank Herbert changed my mind about philosophy because of a couple lines in Dune Messiah, but one of the epigraphs was "Truth suffers from too much analysis," and that I'm starting a YouTube channel called "Truth Suffers" on science fiction because C.S. Lewis knew this, Tolkien knew this. Like telling someone a really good story with good philosophy in it goes so much deeper than giving someone a syllogism. Not every
Yeah,
Descartes'
yeah.
pretty famous for you giving like real terse uh, dictums, but you give someone a good story. Dostoevsky is Dostoevsky for a reason. So
Yes.
yeah.
He's a good example of that. When you said that, I was thinking of the Elie Wiesel quote from Knight about we come to know God through the questions we ask him.
Mm. Hmm.
And of course, as you would, I'm sure, know that that whole dialectical tradition in that back and forth is Israel wrestling with God.
Hmm.
That whole tradition is important in Judaism. It's funny you've been talking about wrestling. My little brothers were both wrestlers. So I know it's been interesting listening to you talk about that because I really do know that world.
Yeah.
And they were both quite serious. My little brother Michael wrestled for a little while at Springfield College, and
Mm.
one of my best friends, Luke, was wrestled at Springfield College and was a coach there. So,
Wow.
what did then tell me what did wrestling do for you when it comes to philosophy and when it comes to cultivating this booktube empire you've got going on? What were there any transferable skills?
Oh yeah, dude. So this is not everyone agrees with this, but a lot of my Park Notes audience really likes the advice I give, especially about like accomplishing your. I actually didn't know this word till booktube, but the TBR, like the to be read pile. Is that right? It's TBR, right?
It is TBR, and I'm like you. When I was introduced to the booktube world, there were all these weird like idiosyncrasies and sort of neurotic fixations that people who are into like booktube have. Like as you would know, like when you go to grad school for like literature or when you like major in literature or philosophy, you've just never heard the term no spoilers or non-spoiler.
Hmm.
Oh, this is like a spoiler alert, whatever.
Yeah,
I had never heard anyone say that until I got into booktube. So I know what you're talking about
yeah,
there.
yeah. Well, so for me as a wrestler, we are in the old school wisdom tradition, and people don't talk about this because a lot of them don't have the language for it. But that's who we are. Our sport is one of the oldest sports in the world, and you have to learn it from someone else who learned it. There's a lot of things you can learn from YouTube. I absolutely am obsessed with YouTube. I love it. Certain things you just can't learn unless you're learning from someone who already learned from it. And it goes
Right.
back and back and back. And so our tradition goes all the way back. Men have been doing this forever. And there's certain life lessons that come through. And it does predispose you to certain political leanings or even like religious leanings, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it's there's some stuff that you like have to disagree with and shake yourself out of too. Like I just found out I had celiac. I have celiac disease, and I didn't know that because the wrestler in me was like, just push through it, just whatever. So you don't feel good if you eat. Don't be a sissy. Just push through. So finally, after having my daughter, I got a physical first time since like college, and they're like, yeah, dude, there's something wrong with you. You can't eat gluten anymore. Like I don't want to be one of those guys, you know. But wrestlers, we have this like it's deep in the wisdom tradition. There's truths about life. No one's gonna give you anything. Like you have to earn it. It's not just like pull yourself up by the bootstraps because all of us also acknowledge you can't get anywhere in life without someone else. You're only as good as your room. You need a coach. You have to listen. You have to be humble. Um, there's really good principles in wrestling. Like they're starting to slip, and actually a lot of it's because the Jersey folks. People in Jersey are very good at wrestling. They're also very insane, and they love to brag and stuff. And this is a Midwest sport, and we're like nice people. And the Jersey folks are like, yeah, screw you. I won. I destroyed you. And all the Midwest people are like, what are you doing? No, act like you've been here before. That's not what we do. This is not wrestling,
Yeah.
American wrestling. So, all that to say, this is a little verbose, but there's certain principles like, I'm going to finish this book today. Why? Because I have goals for my reading. And no, I'm not trying to make it into like homework or whatever, but I know I have a lot of books in here and I want to read all these books. And it's not just so I can say I read them. It's because I want that experience. I want the wisdom. I want the story. I want the experience of reading. I want all that. I will never read all these books if I just haphazardly go at it. So I make a plan and I set daily goals. And that means like, I don't care if there's a fire. I'm going to finish this book. It's the same thing when you're chasing down a single egg and you're like, dude, my arm feels like it's going to break. Then let it break because I've already made my decision. And so it's the same thing with reading. It's a little intense for some people, but it's like, no, I set a goal. I'm going to accomplish this today. So I think principles like that I share on Park Notes. and it resonates with a lot of people because it's a different perspective. I'm bringing the wrestling wisdom into the study tradition, which is funny.
Yeah, I actually like the element of bro philosophy. Actually,
Hmm.
it's not bro philosophy, it's real philosophy with a sort of a bro icing on top. And I actually
Yeah, that's
like that a
good.
lot.
That's
And I
good.
think there needs to be more of that, actually, not less of it, more of it. Um Actually, when you were telling me about that, I was thinking about how wrestling is very Greek and how you're a regular old Plato, though you might not agree with this philosophy, though you're a Christian, so there might be a little
I love
Platonism there.
Plato. Yeah, I love
Okay.
Plato.
And I was also thinking about, of course, the great, as you said, wrestling is something that you have to rely on others and learn from others. And there's a whole mentor-mentee
Hmm.
kind of thing going on with that. And I was thinking about, Socrates learning from the pre-Socratics, and then Plato learning from Socrates, and Aristotle learning from Plato, and
Yeah.
Alexander the Great obviously learning from Aristotle, and this whole um, tradition. So, by the way, um, you now have all these degrees, and you do philosophy booktube, and you just got a master's in philosophy, and you think you might want to get a PhD. So what is philosophy good for? Why, Parker, why study philosophy? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have viewers with what you do, especially younger folks, who ask you advice about whether it's worth it to major in philosophy. What do you tell them? Do you recommend that young people go into philosophy? What to your mind are the pros and cons of like officially going in and majoring in philosophy? Because I'll say one quick thing before
Yeah.
we get your answer. For me, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to major in philosophy or English, to be honest.
Hmm.
Before I majored in philosophy as an undergraduate, my mom was like, "Be careful because you're going to end up making pizzas for a living."
Hmm.
I'll never forget her saying that, and she was right to say that. Like, someone should say that to you, right? When before I got into teaching at the high school level, I have a friend, oh, the wrestler Luke. His mom told me, "Don't go into this profession. You're going to have homework, and grading takes hours and hours and hours." And you'll never get that life back.
Mm.
And, like I was angry and resentful when she said that because I didn't want anyone to deter me from this career. But I'm glad that she said that. And it turns out this career was right for me. But it was important that someone said that in my ear at that point in time. So my mom said, like, don't major in philosophy. You're going to be making pizzas, and that didn't end up happening. But that always made it so that I was thinking about what I could do with this philosophy, not just as like a creature of the academy, but someone. What do I go out into the world to do with this? And one of the reasons I ended up majoring in philosophy is just that I took some English classes, and those at this point mostly what they actually look like is you're sitting around in a circle singing Kumbaya, and you're
Hmm.
like pontificating very vaguely about the 100 pages you read this week. Whereas philosophy was so focused, it was so goal oriented, it was so rigorous. I mean, we had 3 times the amount of reading that the English majors had. Our GPAs collectively were lower, right? All my English major friends at graduation, when they were announcing cum laude and summa and magna cum laude, all the English majors had summa cum laude.
Because you had
Philosophy majors,
philosophers grading your stuff.
what's
That
that?
you
Oh,
had philosophers
yes,
grading your stuff, and they won't do it. They
exactly.
won't inflate
Just
your stuff because
the
they can't.
concern,
Yeah.
exactly. The concern for standards and principles and precision and uh, non-contradiction and following a. I just the field was not dominated and still really isn't dominated by critical theory. Some of the like wacky stuff that was going on in the university. Somehow philosophy majors were still getting really good scores on the LSATs and
Yeah.
all these other, and they still do.
Yep.
And it was this, and I just thought to myself, what a discipline that at this moment in time could insulate itself from some of the wacky, like postmodern chaos that was going on. And I just loved it. I
Hmm.
loved it. Would you recommend, again, I'll just say that question. What do you tell people who are interested in majoring in philosophy? Do you think it's still a good idea? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would, Whew, there's so much to it. I am an American, so I am pragmatic. That's our great
Yeah.
philosophy. Our addition to the world is pragmatism, unfortunately, but some of it's okay. I I like to tell people to minor in it, or double major in philosophy, because you do want to provide food. Like you need to be able to pay for the pizzas also, even if you're making them. So I would say double major and do something where like you see a career going, but ph philosophy is the back door to everything. Like if you understand philosophy, you can understand everyone else's discipline. And why do I say this? Well, everyone who gets a PhD gets a philosophy of degree. And that's really what it's supposed to be. A PhD in education is a philosophy of education degree. Well, is that using the right kind of philosophy? It is. You're saying this is what education means. This is what education is. Once you start getting into the higher level disciplines or the higher order, second order of your discipline, this is now in the realm of philosophy. So if you studied logic, if you studied grammar, if you studied philosophy of language, you can settle some of these things more quickly, or you can just know what's going on. So like you want to understand some physics stuff. Well, if you have a good set of like metaphysics going on, you'll be surprised how long you can stay in the conversation with the theoretical physicists because you're like, oh, you're saying this, but I have these other categories, and we're talking about fundamental reality. That's what we're talking about here. And actually, the philosopher has been doing this forever. So it's a back door into a lot of other disciplines. Same thing with like I study the philosophy of artificial intelligence, and that's a big sexy thing right now. That's kind of why I wanted to get into philosophy is through like Batman the animated series. I have some figurines back here. That stuff really got to me. I have a Batman waking up from the simulation hypothesis here,
I was
or
going
from
to ask you
the
what that
simulated world.
was.
Yeah, and then I have do androids dream of electric sheep? I love thinking about robots. I wore this one for you too. So
Yes.
I love thinking about robots and stuff, and it's just really exciting for me that AI is kind of taking off because of the large language models right now. It's like this is something I've been thinking about forever. This is awesome, but I'm able to talk with the computer science folks who are actually building this stuff because I've studied philosophy of mind. And oh, you're talking about computationalism over here in philosophy of mind. We call it functionalism, machine functionalism. So same kind of stuff, but I'm able to talk with you and learn more. Really, it's not about like, oh, I know what let me corner the conversation to just what I know. No, you can actually talk to other people when you know some philosophy. I think that's really super valuable. It's obviously good for you. It's good for you to help, become a better thinker. Logic's great, all that stuff. But I just want to talk with more people and continue learning. And liberal arts the seven liberal arts are great, especially the first three, the trivium, logic, grammar, and rhetoric. Like, dude, you want to speak well? Do you want to go and have a YouTube channel? You like that? You like what I do? You like what Jordan does? Learn how to talk to people. Learn some rhetoric, learn some logic too. So you're not making fallacious arguments. You're not passing off, bad info. Um, Rhetoric, learn some grammar, like learn how to write a script for yourself to help you with your videos or to increase your vocabulary. Or if you want to be a good movie critic, the three fundamental like liberal arts will help you critique movies really well. Like all of these kind of things. So I love philosophy, man. I think when done well, it can really humble you, right? Because I have a lot of friends who are not Christians and they're philosophers, and seeing how smart they are is like, dude, it's hard for me to be triumphalistic on some stuff when I know that guy exists.
Right.
And same thing, like we can debate back and forth, and just realizing, like, dude, the world is way weirder than we know. And why do I know that? Because I've studied philosophy, and I know that there's a bunch of like there's this vagueness argument or this like subdiscipline of philosophy called vagueness. One of the prompts to motivate this is to ask, hey, was Mars always dry or not dry? You're like, look, dude, now this is so pedantic. But it's like, no, was Mars always dry or not dry? They say that there's been water on Mars, but what counts as water? Is it one molecule? Is it like when does the wetness emerge? Because now you have to talk about emergence and stuff. And so is it vague? Is the answer vague? There was one point where there was less molecules, and so it wasn't quite wet any longer. There wasn't water anymore, and so that's such a goofy thing. But it draws you into vagueness, and you realize like, oh, vagueness is a really big part of everything.
Oh
Like
yeah.
clouds, we point to clouds, and we're like, "There's a cloud." And you're like, "Is it a cloud? Like what? What about the water molecules around the edge, or your
Is
own
fog a
physical body?"
cloud?
Yeah,
Right.
right. Or your own body. Where does your body begin and end?
Right.
And so maybe for some that's like, oh wow, he's showing me why I don't like philosophy. But I'm hoping that
No, I
that's
was
not.
always really into object metaphysics. I just found it so fascinating, and I get why people find it boring, but I don't know, it kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, you were
When
talking about why I'm trying to whet people's appetites. It's because I helped teach that undergrad class and working with the undergrads and seeing some of the people come to life and seeing their eyes light up. And I couldn't guess who it was going to be. I thought that was really exciting for me because I'm like, this guy looks sharp. He's gonna, here he comes. And he was just like snoozing. And this little cheerleader is like, oh, I don't know. The ship of Theseus is pretty cool. I'm like, oh, all right, man. No more preconceived notes. I don't know who the philosophers are out there, but let's find them. And talking about um inverted qualia, like, hey, is I usually have a highlighter with me. Is this highlighter the same color for you as it is for me? And it's like that, who cares? Because you can't really answer that. I'm like, well, if you think it's possible, then certain views of mind are false. So like physicalism may not be true if you see this as your purple and my highlighter yellow is what I see, right?
right.
So yeah. So
And
that's
if
fun.
physicalism is true, you may not have free will, maybe. And so
Right, yeah.
there are all sorts of, ideas have consequences.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I went to SUNY Binghamton.
Hmm.
And I was attracted to that place because it was where Camille Paglia went. It was where the literary critic John Gardner went. And so when I went to college, I didn't know if I wanted to major in philosophy or English still. And so, God, my undergrad experience it just blew my mind. It just changed me as a person. And my mentors, I did this honors program where you do a thesis, an honors thesis, it's like 35 pages or something like that. And then you have to stand up in front of the philosophy
Mm.
department and defend your
So
thesis. And that
awesome. That's a great
it
thing.
it was a
Yeah.
great experience for me. Started the philosophy club. Um, I just boy, putting yourself out there and doing that. My mentor was Charles Goodman, and this guy was incredible. He did his undergrad at Harvard and he did it in physics. And then he decided I don't want to be, because he said his roommate was like the best physicist like in the world for his age. Like
Mm.
he was like, I don't think I am that. I just think I got really good test scores and really good grades in high school. And what he ended up doing is he learned Sanskrit and ended up becoming a professor of Asian philosophy.
Mm.
So I met him in a course called Buddhist Metaphysics. And what I loved about this guy, smartest person I've ever met, still. It's amazing. It's one of those things. I don't think anyone knows this guy exists because he's not the type. He's a Buddhist. He's not the type to try to go out and show himself on
Hmm.
YouTube unless it's part of a conference he's giving or something like that, or someone asks him, then he'll do it. Smartest guy I have ever met. And what he used to do was, he would basically teach Buddhist philosophies and theories, and he would pair them with in a Western like analytic philosophy. So
Yeah.
we would learn like Nagarjuna
Mm.
and ancient Indian Buddhist philosophy is extremely rigorous and analytical, and a
Mm.
lot of people don't know this. And so we would do Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamaka Karika, and we would pair that with like Peter von Inwagen,
Yeah, dude. He's so
or
good.
we
I
would
you
like
did your thesis on Schopenhauer and someone I probably can't
and
pronounce, right?
Vasubandhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was and it like it was like a very unsexy and unpopular. In fact, the professors, when I was up there delivering my thesis and arguing with the professors, they were like, first question was, you did Schopenhauer and Vasubandhu. Why didn't you just do Kant? Who does Schopenhauer? And Yeah, I did. I basically did a comparison of how Vasubandhu's Trisvabhava Nirdesha, which is his treatise on the three natures.
Mm.
Um, it's basically just it's kind of like an idealist philosophy,
Yeah, yeah.
essentially. And I just said that was very similar to Schopenhauer's World as Will and Representation. And I had gotten the idea from that Smith College professor, Jay Garfield, who does comparative philosophy. And
Mm.
it was a lot of fun, but I think for most of it for me was it forced me to dig. It forced me to learn a lot, and it forced me to get up and like defend myself publicly and to like build up that muscle, which now I do that every day. I teach philosophy. I teach two philosophy classes at my school. I teach AP language. I teach all the logical fallacies and all that. So now I'm up every day and I don't even think about it.
Hmm.
But at the time, that was philosophy was really good training for life.
Yeah.
It just changed the way it rewired my brain. I don't know if it probably did the same for you.
Yeah, and in some harmful ways actually. Just the analytic tradition. So this is like you said, I have a lot of different niches. I'm really into a lot of different weird things. And in each one of those, the heroes are different. And so like I was in
Yeah.
the frog community for a long time. And if you don't know, like the frog community, they all have blue hair or pink hair or whatever. And they're like polyamorous and stuff. And some of my friends from that community are way different than my other friends,
Yeah.
which are
Yeah.
actually different than the turtle community. We think these people would be best friends. The turtle folks are nerds. They know all the Latin names for all the turtles.
Right.
The frog people are like kissing them and they all have Instagrams. The turtle people are like, I'm a herpetologist and I'm out in the field. I'm a field worker. Um, which is funny. I love these folks. But then like going into theology world, it's like we need to wear tweed coats. And I actually love tweed stuff. So I have
I
a tweed hat.
bet.
Yeah. So um that's that world. The philosophers are like, bro, whatever. Like I want to dress all chill. And then they get up and they're like, here's the argument. And it's like,
Right.
so trying to just become an analytic philosopher was a mistake for me. Because the way I thought and because of my heroes, and I was like, look, I go into the wrestling room, and none of these people would admire the other folks. Like
Yeah.
there's all that, you know what I mean? There's just so many different worlds. So me trying to be like a holistic person and be like, I don't want to bag on people or anything like that, but that guy's really, really good at analytic philosophy, and that's so cool. And I can appreciate that. I don't have to try and emulate everything in his life because I actually don't
Right.
want his life. I don't want to trade places with him or
Right.
her. Um, but it was because of science fiction that I'm like, wait a second. These folks, a lot of these folks were philosophers. They were just doing it in a different medium. And a lot of the analytic folks are obsessed with them anyways. They love science fiction. Why do they love it? Because that's a lot of the Christians get in because of apologetics. A lot of the non-Christians get in because of Star Trek and because of all the puzzles that are going on in Star Trek. So it's like, okay, yeah, science fiction is a huge part of it, and they're also really good writers. Analytic philosophers are notoriously terrible writers.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm trying to broaden out my perspective again, but the comparative philosophy approach I think is really helpful, especially between analytic philosophy and continental philosophy too. I'm going back into my continental stuff, but the comparative stuff between that and science fiction is like gold, especially
Hmm.
like new wave science fiction,
Hmm.
um, because they're really like they're humanists. They're like, well, I want like good classic humanism, right? Of
Yeah.
like people
Yeah.
are really important, and maybe we shouldn't outmode all of our stuff to machines. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my project now. Yeah.
They say that what defined the new wave was inner space versus outer space. If,
Mm,
finally, an exploration of inner space versus outer space. I'm a lot like you, Parker. I never wanted to be uh, pigeonholed into one thing. I gravitated toward the continental philosophers. Again, I wasn't even calling them that. I just
mm,
was calling them the existentialists. And
mhm,
so I was reading the novels of Jean-Paul Sartre and Camus. I was obviously reading everything by Schopenhauer at the time because I fancied that he was the closest philosopher to me in terms of personality. At the
mm.
time, I was a gloomy pessimist as well. I don't consider myself that anymore.
Yeah.
But even just as you pointed out, like I found myself really enjoying the analytic philosophy class because I like perspicacity and clarity of thought and I there's this orderliness that I have. I really like clean arguments. I like to see a conclusion follow from a set of premises. I like certainty. Maybe
Mm,
that's probably a bad thing, but I really like certainty
yeah.
and ironclad arguments. But then, at the same time, as you say, the homework was agonizing.
Mm,
I took a philosophy of mind class and I had to go read that gigantic beefy tome edited by David Chalmers. And I had to read all of these different
mm,
essays and they were I wouldn't even call them poorly written. Just there's no attempt to delight or I found often the popularizers of philosophy and science get made fun of, the Carl Sagans of the world, the Dan
Mhm.
Dennett's of the world, but they're very readable
Mhm.
and they're great writers. The Bill Brysons, but they're excellent writers. And so I found that when I would read Kierkegaard, when I would read his, Fear and Trembling or Either or is such an underappreciated masterpiece. Um, there's like whole novels, beautiful novels inside of that book that are just little footnotes basically to the whole book, right? He in the either part, he does a whole story about the diary of a seducer. And
Mhm.
that book is really all about Kierkegaard trying to figure out whether he wants to become an aesthete, a hedonistic person who lives for sensual pleasure, or the or part of the book. It's broken into two parts. The or part is or do I want to be an ethical person who does the right thing, a serious, sober Christian who lives that life? And it's all about this idea of really becoming something, not
Mhm.
being spread out. What's the line from Lord of the Rings? Like butter.
I'll spread across too much bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to really jump into something and go deep into it and become one thing, to become who you are, as Nietzsche said. But Nietzsche
Mhm.
was a good writer too. And so I would sit down and read these continental philosophers, and I would read Walter Kaufmann's translation of Nietzsche. I had my little portable Viking Nietzsche anthology that I would
Mhm.
just beat up.
Yeah.
And God, what a beautiful writer. You don't have to agree with Nietzsche. I don't agree with Nietzsche, and he's one of my favorite philosophers
That's what
because
people don't,
he's
yeah, people don't
so
get that.
provocative.
Yeah. Some of my favorite philosophers are people I like desperately disagree with, and it's just fun to disagree with them.
That's right.
Or you like the way they reason, or you like the way that they write, and you're just like, it's just fun to bat. Like one of my favorites is Donald Davidson, and people have all forgot about Donald Davidson, but he was
I know
the man.
Davidson.
Yeah, dude, he was
Yeah.
the man. And he had really cool thought experiments like the Swamp Man, and he's trying to talk about like our concepts. Uh, do you need to have a interaction with the thing that you have a concept of in order for it to count? So like, do I need to actually have talked about this and touched it and felt it in order for it to be my concept? Or can you just have your concepts like downloaded in your brain? And so he comes up
Right.
with a swamp
Right.
man argument, and it's like, well, just imagine you're next to a swamp, lightning bolt strikes, kills you, but simultaneously turns a log into you. And it's like, look, it's philosophy. You can stipulate that this happened. It doesn't,
Love
well, it's
it.
not really probable. Who cares if it's probable? Just stipulate it, and then let's see, like, would that guy have any of your knowledge? Would it count? And so it's like, okay, nice story from not the 1970s or whatever. But it's like, no, this has application for artificial intelligence. Do
Hmm.
artificial, if an artificial sentient being, whatever sentient means, if it has concepts, like how did it get them? Did you program them in, or did it pick those up through connecting with a human? Or did you have a human in the loop, as they say? Like we need to know these kind of things, and your philosophy will determine what you say about that robot's thing. So it's fascinating, man. I love that kind of stuff. And I think on your channel you said like you want to talk about like Zelazny and people who aren't, as popular anymore. I want to do that with philosophy as well. And I want to do that with science fiction. So like I feel like we're
Yeah.
brothers in arms there. But there's so much good wisdom that people just forget about. And then for whatever reason, certain people get elevated, and you're like, that's great. They're cool. But you know that there's a bunch of other people, or there's people who taught them stuff. Like let's talk about them as well. I
Oh
started
yeah.
Pensies because I wanted people like the professor you talked about, where you're like nobody knows who he is. I wanted those kind of people to be known more. I wanted their work to be appreciated. So I do have to have some of like the huge names on in order to grow my stuff, and they're cool. But I'm most excited about like graduate students who are just finishing up because they don't have an ego yet, and they'll go anywhere and talk everything. Or like the person who's just underappreciated, but everyone in the business knows that they're a freaking legend. And so I'm like, dude, Jordan Peterson's cool or whatever, but there's a lot of other people who could talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like one of my professors, Kevin Van Hooser, I think is the greatest living systematic theologian alive today. And he's a little shy, so he doesn't come on my podcast, even though I started it for him. He was my master's. he's like my first chair in my master's thesis, and I wrote it defending his position against the problem of evil. And basically, the argument is super cool. He did most of the work, saying like, "Hey, Mikhail Bakhtin's interpretation of Dostoevsky's authorship is right. Dostoevsky's authorship, his characters have more life because he took real people's arguments and put them in and made them into a character. Whereas like Tolstoy maybe is runs roughshod over his characters, and so there's like literary criticism, and that's the continental side of things. And then I wanted to analyze it and make it more analytic and defend it
Yeah.
against evil and stuff. But um, I'm like, dude, this everyone needs to know about Kevin Van Hooser. He could talk about all this stuff. It's amazing. We just not that I want to diminish other people. I just want more people out there. There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
YouTube's amazing. Let's put it out there, and then more people can learn forever and ever.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And then, as you've said before, why not break the mold? And um, there are analytic philosophers who um, who are great writers as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of someone, I guess you'd have to call him an analytic philosopher, someone like Derek Parfit.
Hmm. Yeah.
And my God, you pick up Reasons and Persons and incredibly readable. You feel like you're reading science fiction half the time. Um, and it's just like your Donald Davidson Swamp Man,
Yeah.
example. But yeah, you should definitely see if you should bring Charles Goodman on if as a possible guest at some point. Um,
That'd
if
be
you want
huge.
to,
That's the kind of thing. It's like let's talk about that. Especially you're putting people in contact, you're putting different views in contact with each other. Let's do it.
you'd like him a lot. If
Yeah.
you want to see what he's like, I do know he's on a podcast called The Infidel Guy, and the host of that show, he's from the South. His name is Reggie, and he does some like atheist, secular, humanist radio show down in Georgia or something like that.
Hmm.
And he's been on that show. So if you want to see what he's like, he's a consequentialist. He wrote a book called The Consequences of Compassion. He's a
Hmm.
Buddhist. And as a Buddhist of the Madhyamaka tradition, he's obviously he's a mereological nihilist,
Oh wow.
which
Okay.
is for my viewers, not to say that he's a moral nihilist, but anyways, I think you would really like him
Yeah.
a lot. He's such an interesting guy, but I think he runs the Buddhist meditation center at SUNY Binghamton. But speaking of everything that you were just saying, you're also, as you said, into fantasy and science
Hmm.
fiction. You like Dune, and I know you like Christopher Rocchio's Sun Eater
Yeah.
series. I'm a big fan too. And I'm wondering if you think there is, and I know you do, a connection between science fiction and fantasy and philosophy.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of philosophy guys gravitate toward science fiction, especially, but also fantasy, more so than modern literature or I don't know, mystery or horror or even the
Yeah.
classics. Are they intertwined for you too? And like, as a philosophy person, do you find that in science fiction? Is that why you read sci-fi?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I know so. It's definitely true. But also, just historical stuff for me. Like my dad, my dad's favorite book is The Stars, My Destination. You're familiar
Bester?
with that at all? Yeah, Bester. Nice job, dude. All right. Um, it's a fantastic book. It's very similar to The Count of Monte Cristo, but and intentionally kind of like Rockio and
It's like my
Dune.
wife's favorite book, Count of Monte Cristo. It's
Yeah, it's one of
awesome.
my favorite. I absolutely love that book. My dad, he like is that guy. He was one of 10 kids. They were all adopted from this little
Wow.
town, little poor town. My grandmother couldn't have kids, and she's like, I just want a bunch of kids. And then they were foster parents too. So at one time there
Beautiful.
was like 17 kids in the house with one bathroom, and so my dad always thought he was dumb, and he kind of he became a Christian and started educating himself. But um, from his early childhood, he was like obsessed with rocket ships. He had some little rocket ship toy that he found in a field, and it just like set his mind ablaze. And so anything with like really shiny rocket ships. So he really likes the classical sci-fi. I really like the new wave stuff. But he taught us like Christianity, but he would also teach us about philosophy through science fiction. And he didn't know he was doing that. He was just like, think about this concept. Isn't this cool? Like, let me tell you the story. That's a good thing to be. And so the stars of my destination was like a huge part of my life. And then
So he like the golden age, or
Golden Age,
was
that's
it
right.
like pulp
Golden Age.
era? Yeah.
Some of the pulp era, I think he probably would say the short stories are the best, and that's probably more pulp era. He writes his own short stories, and they're super goofy, out there, wild.
Oh,
But
how cool.
yeah, man. So
That's awesome.
we're working on making his setting up his Substack right now.
Heck
So that'd be
yeah.
yeah. He pumps them out too, man. He's a goofball. But that was a huge part of my life. So talking with him about science fiction, he was also a Trekkie for a period, and then completely dropped it, and then picked it back up. And he's like me, or I'm like him. Hobby, hobby, hobby. Like I want to learn everything about it. And then he lets go. I never let go. So he'll be like, all right, I'm done. On to the next. So he would teach us about this stuff. Then Batman, the animated series, like the most, I don't know. Did you grow up? Did you ever watch Batman, the animated series?
I only recently started watching that. It's funny
Okay.
that you asked that. That's so random and fortuitous. Yeah. I've just had enough of people telling me how awesome that series
Yeah.
is, and I literally just started it.
That's
I think
awesome.
so. Yeah,
I mean, are you enjoying it?
yeah. So far,
Okay.
I'm really enjoying it.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and it's funny because right after I started watching it, I went to the gas station I always go to in the morning to get like a coffee, and the guy at the counter was watching Batman the Animated
Ah,
Series.
let's go.
It's like all these signs are coming at me that this is going to be part of my life.
Yeah. It
What about you? What do you like about
Well, so
that?
that's how I learned like philosophical concepts. There's a robot. There's an episode called His Silicon Soul, and uh, I don't know. Can I spoil it for you, or
Yeah,
is it
you can
cool?
spoil it for me. I'm
Okay,
not one of the weird spoiler people. It's
that's
about the
good.
journey.
That's what I think too. Well, so there's this big machine called Hardak, and it's an AI machine, and it makes robots. And the inventor made it so that to help humanity, and the robot, the alignment problem is there, so it becomes unaligned with the intentions of humans. And it said, fine, I know how to help humanity. I'm going to make everyone into a robot so I can just replace your parts.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to replace everyone in Gotham, and it makes one for Bruce Wayne and Batman. And the way that Batman beats it, it's a couple episode series for Hardak. The way he beats the robot Batman is he acts like he was killed by him. And the robot was so much Batman that actually killing someone with a gun was like so against his programming that he like short circuited and exploded. And so the whole point was like, whoa, was he actually, did he have a soul? Like, was he more Batman than he knew and stuff like that? So just little things like that. Another one was where I have this tattoo. Batman was trapped in a dream world from the Mad Hatter, and the way he woke up was he was trying to read books, and he couldn't read in his dream, and he's like, I know it's a dream. And so there's all these philosophical existential questions about like the Mad Hatter's like, I gave you everything you wanted, and he's like, but it's not real. And he's like, well, what's real? Isn't what's real your experience? And he's like, no, it's not. And so that's actually my oldest memory, is watching that with my brothers and my dad. So I'm like, let me just tattoo that on my arm. I do a lot of my philosophy is on the simulation hypothesis and brain in a vat skepticism and stuff. So I'm like, it just, since I was a child, I've been thinking about this stuff. So the I don't know if superheroes are science fiction. I actually am starting another channel for superhero stuff, because I think just the audiences, whatever, for whatever reason, people are like, I like superheroes. I'm like, oh, do you like science fiction too? Not really. What? Didn't he get his powers from like a super sci-fi premise? But I don't know. So whatever, I'll find people wherever they're at. But guys like Philip K. Dick, man, he's my guy. I love Philip K. Dick so much.
I can
I'm
sense that. I just talking to you that if getting to know you when we hadn't even discussed sci-fi, and someone asked, okay, what I want to get Parker a present. What book do I get him? I would have said Philip K. Dick for some reason, just given I think it's your philosophical interests, but there's something almost religious about the kind of questioning that Philip K. Dick does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And he was in and out of Christianity his whole life. Um, but whatever, he just likes those concepts, and so he's like, let me just play with it. And you can tell he's working stuff out in his books.
Mhm.
Some of them, people are like, yeah, he really pumped that one out, and like, yeah, he did, and he's probably on LSD, but it's still a good book.
Yeah.
I always say that he's like C.S. Lewis on LSD if he lost hope, you know, because he doesn't do heroes. There's no heroes in his books.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Um, but he was an undergrad philosophy major, so he slips in a lot of philosophy. If you look at Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, he's got the Turing test in there, but his Turing
Oh
test
yeah.
is better. It's not can you pass like logical rigor? Machines are already better than us, or were already better than us at that. It's empathy. It's an empathy test.
Mm.
So Dick actually improved that, and this philosopher Susan Schneider. There we go. She has taken some of Philip K. Dick's questions in that book and turned them into a real life set of questions for determining if a machine is conscious or not. So it's like, that started in the real world of science, moved into science fiction, came out in the philosophy world, having real world applications. I'm like, this is awesome, dude. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And you know who doesn't get enough credit for being philosophical in his science fiction? Alistair Reynolds.
Mm.
You may or may not have read
No,
him, but
yeah, I haven't even heard
he's
of him.
he's an astrophysicist. He worked for the European Space Agency, and he wrote a book called Revelation Space. It's extremely dense, but not dense in a way that. So there's the kind of dense that's like Gene Wolfe, and it's unbelievably dense, and you can enjoy it at one level. Then there's a deeper level you can enjoy it, and then a deeper level. Or there's dense like Steven Erickson's Malazan Book of the Fallen, where
Yeah.
you literally have no clue what's going on at any given time. You can follow it for 30 pages, then you're lost, and you just have to
Mm.
go along for the ride.
Yeah.
I don't really like his stuff that much. Alistair Reynolds is dense in that you really have to pay attention, but
Mm.
you'll know what if you pay attention, you'll always know what's going on. He does not get enough credit for being extremely philosophical.
Mm.
He's hard sci-fi, so he is predicting future technology. He's setting his books in deep space in uh, somewhere between 700 and sometimes a million years into the future.
Mm.
So much of his work is logical extrapolation about where technology might be going. In the Revelation Space series, the characters have beta level simulations, which is basically just like I don't know, like that influencer that spoke for 50 hours and then turned herself into a bot so that lonely men who live in their parents' basement could have like an e-girlfriend,
Yikes.
like a bot chatbot girlfriend of this influencer. Well,
Mm.
that's like a beta simulation, and then there's alpha level simulations, and you have to read to understand. Like, there's a ton of philosophy in it,
Mm.
and it's space opera. I think you'd really like it.
Yeah. Sounds like
And,
it.
and the science is he goes for perfect scientific accuracy, if that's possible, which it isn't, but
Mm.
it's really enjoyable. So tell me this too, Parker. I'm noticing lately that there are a bunch of channels like yours, and I'm thinking someone like Jared Henderson's, where there's an emphasis on journaling and
Mhm.
notebooks and organizational skills, like self-help for basically for people who want to become smarter, for people who want to live a life of the mind. How did you get into that?
Yeah.
And I'm curious. So I'm a big note taker. I write things down all the time. When ideas, profound quotations. Every always when I'm reading a book, and especially when I'm going to make a video about it, I always have a document open with the title of the book and notes, and I just make bullet points. And anytime I come across something I know I'm going to want to talk about, I just drop a brief 2 sentence note in there. But I
Mm.
always do that on the computer. So tell me why you use these romantic little leather bound notebooks. What does that do for you? Because that's been popular content for you, and it seems to really help people out. So what's that all about?
Yeah, dude, and it is stupid popular. It's like almost frustrating sometimes
People
because you're
love
like,
it.
well, it's like, dude, yeah, I work really hard on my podcast, man. I have to read a lot of books and a lot of philosophy, and to not look stupid talking to some of the smartest people in the world. And then it'll get like a good video for me is like over 1,000 views, and I'm like sick. And a bad video for me on Park Notes is like it didn't hit 45,000 in 30 days. It's like what
Yeah.
is going on? But I started stepping into that world because I've been blogging forever, and I really like. I don't like the word blog. I like I wanted to be an essayist, and you appreciate this, like from
Sure.
the, yeah, from the, your background. I want to write essays and I want to write short stories. So I started this blog and I really like synthesizing things. That's why I like the comparative philosophy and science fiction, all that stuff. So I got into that, and the blog posts that would blow up were when I was like, here's how I read, here's how I take notes, and everyone wanted to hear that. And I was like, dude, I work so hard on other stuff. This is just so. What I learned is this is another philosophical kind of an- analysis here. They like the syntax of what I do. They don't like the semantics of what I do. Right. So it's like the actual content, I have a decent audience. People like that. But when it comes to the syntax, how do I produce my content? How do I actually abstract out the ideas that I'm going to talk about on my other channels? Everyone wants to hear that productivity type stuff. So I learned that all my blogs about this kind of stuff, notebooking, journaling, all that stuff would take off. And a lot of people liked that I was a bro in that space because that's heavily dominated by ladies who are super neat and organized and use stickers and stuff. And that
Yeah.
stuff's cool. I'm not good at that. Mine would look so terrible if I tried that. So mine are really sloppy. I have bad handwriting. I'm getting better at it, but a lot of people appreciated that. And they're like, "Hey, I appreciate that you're showing me how you do it without having to be so neat and proper and use rulers to write and stuff." So a lot of people really appreciated that. And because I'm a bro, it gave a lot of guys excuses to take up notebooks. And I'm like, this is not just a lady thing, man. Guys have been
Yeah.
keeping notebooks forever. Descartes wrote all of his stuff in a little black notebook. Like this goes all the way back. Look at one of my favorite movies is Game of Shadows, Sherlock Holmes' Game of Shadows. And I really like villains because I'm sick. There's something wrong with me, but I love Moriarty. And he's got this little pocket notebook where he keeps all of his dastardly plans.
You're just a modern man. We're attracted to villains
Yeah,
somehow.
man. Um, so like right now I'm keeping notes from our conversation because there's like I'll circle it, and this is how I do my podcast because I want to give you the opportunity to say everything you need to say, but I don't want to lose the track. I don't want to lose the train of thought. And I have something that I think will really help the conversation, but it's really rude for me to interrupt. And it's actually a lot harder to do. If you and I were sitting here, it'd be much easier to interrupt each other because we could read the social cues better, but it's harder when we're not. So I write that down and I'm like, I have a note on Andrew Clavin because I saw you just did a video on that. I'm like, oh, at some point it'd be fun to talk about it. If we can't, we can't. So, writing it down, I need to look into the psychological research a little bit more, but there is some connection between writing longhand versus taking notes with a keyboard. Some of that has to do with you can take someone can be listening to us and take down everything we say if you're really fast typer. You won't be able to do that longhand. So what some of the research says is that by compartmentalizing it or by having to put it in your own words or metabolize it yourself, you're helping yourself remember it. So that's some of it. I also think there's some kind of connection between handwriting and memory. If I read a
Oh
book,
yeah.
I have to do physical book, and I write my books unless it's like one of these old school ones. Like I'll use a notebook for this because I'm not writing in this book. This is a collectible. But if it's not, then I write in the book, and I can remember what side of the page it was on. I know it's in the top right corner, this quote that I need. And I write blogs and I do videos. So I need to go and find that quote, or I need to put it in my commonplace book. I know it's on the right side. So I can skim through the book and just look top right and I'll find it. I can't do that with digital stuff for whatever reason. It just doesn't work for me. I think there's something about the space and the way that my memory works is I need it to be spatial, and everything's the same. In a Kindle, it's the same page, right? It flips, but you're not flipping it. So I do take notes on philosophy papers in my Kindle Scribe because I'm not printing all those. There's too many papers so I can actually take notes in there. But I started making videos on Parker's Pensies, and they outperformed all of my other podcast episodes. And so one of my buddies was like, "You should just try making a different YouTube channel just for that." I'm like, "I don't know. These are performing pretty good. Usually I get like 1,000. These are getting like 5,000." He's like, "Yeah, imagine if it got even more because the algorithm wasn't pigeonholing you." So then I did, and discovered Jared's stuff after I started publishing a little bit, and trying not to like just do everything Jared does, because I'm like, we are different people actually.
Yeah, I can
We do
tell.
different things. But I could see someone be like, "You're just trying to ride his coattails." Like, Dude, no, we're both creating a niche here. And I know Jared, we're friends, so it's cool.
Mhm.
But we do have different methods of and different approaches to taking notes and everything. And I think watching both and picking your own is the best way to do it. But yeah, it took off, dude. Took off. It's insane. So I'm actually like a full-time YouTuber now, I guess. I still do some part-time stuff with the ministry, which is awesome. But yeah, that really took off. And so I'm trying to capitalize on it and say like, well, let me start a channel for superheroes and philosophy because I love superhero stuff. Let me start one for science fiction and philosophy and just diversify this because I mean, dude, YouTube is pretty fickle. And so last year was the year of commonplace books. All my stuff and all Jared's stuff on commonplace books exploded and then completely shut down in January of this year. So whatever reason, I don't know what they're doing over there, but they're like, no more commonplace books. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple things on that. You actually said that in order to not interrupt people, you've got these notes that you take, and I had never even thought of that because I don't want to be a rude person, but whenever I interrupt someone, it is always because um, I thought of something that I am going to forget if I don't
Yes.
say it soon.
100%.
Because if I don't say it soon, then I won't be listening to the next thing that you say.
Hmm.
And once I get like five things that I want to say start to stack up, some of them disappear. That's actually, I don't know why I didn't think of that. That's so simple.
It's super
Uh,
simple and these aren't notes that are probably going to help you later. They may,
right.
but this is just it's your working memory just
Hmm.
on paper. So like I have all sorts of notes here and they're all circled and sometimes I'll scratch them out or I'll double, triple, quadruple circle like really you need to talk about this. This is so good. But just like you said, man, I want to listen to what you're saying. I'm not able to do that if I'm sitting on attack because you said something
Yep.
that sparked me. So
Yep.
I'm putting it down and maybe probably should have told you that so you don't see me keep looking back down, but
Oh, and I knew you were
that's what I'm
taking
doing.
notes.
Yeah.
I just I thought that that was just a way of either keeping busy or organizing your thoughts or whatever. But as a kind of memory aid
Yeah.
and a kind of prompter, that's really good. Two questions. When you said when you talked earlier about the content that really does well for you, my first thought in my head was do you think that those videos do well? I have two theories. One is this is not just ponderous, thoughtful, profound, sort of Socratic exchanges between you and a guest or whatever, but these are short, encapsulated, well planned videos that are useful. Like I could watch one of your notes videos and then like go make it useful in my life. Literally try something new for a week.
Mm,
So they're useful. They're like YouTube videos that help you set up your technology or
yeah.
teach you how to garden or how to fix your car or whatever. So is that because people like useful things?
Yeah.
So it could it be that two, and this is a little more cynical. I think a lot of people I have learned are obsessed with daydreaming about who they could be
Mm,
if they just got disciplined and like behaved in a disciplined fashion and like pursued their goals in a serious way and with some delayed gratification and self-denial
mm,
and so I think a lot of people like to watch videos like that and say to themselves, this is who I could be.
mm,
I don't know how many people who watch your notes videos actually see it through. It's the
mm.
kind of New Year's resolution sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? I notice every January the gym gets really crowded, and
Hmm.
then it trickles off into February, and then I'm alone in the gym again. Um,
Yeah. Totally.
and I think a lot of people like to just. I think that's why they like to watch, TBR videos and what are those videos where you collect a bunch of books? Uh,
Oh yeah. It's book
what are
hauls,
those?
maybe? Is it book
What
haul?
book hauls? They want to daydream about. They want to watch content about the life where they're actually diving into those books, because the world is a very distracting place, and reading requires a ton of sustained focus and
Mm,
discipline. And they would rather just procrastinate reading those books by watching a video of a man collecting those books.
mm.
And I suppose, do you think which theory is more true? Do you think?
Yeah. Okay, I'm also cynical. However, in this scenario, I don't think the cynical one wins out, unfortunately for us cynics. But okay, I wrote down three things. One is Trojan horse, and then I wrote down useful or not. The Trojan horse is that I am I'm kind of a philosophy influencer, but I don't let them know that. I want them to think that I am a productivity influencer, and I Trojan horse philosophy into all my videos. So
Well,
like
that's a
there's
good
one,
thing.
yeah, because look, you don't get this for free. If you want to watch, if you want to learn, I'm going to teach you some of the content that I'm studying. So I'll often talk about the philosophy of artificial intelligence or um just like it's shoehorned in, but it's still connected. So one of my videos has 1 million views. It's on pocket notebooks can save your mind, and it's how like I couldn't sleep at night because I was reading so much. Maybe you've had this too, but you read so much, and then the connections start forming, and you're going to sleep, and your mind is like, I don't want to forget these, so let me rehearse all those things that you had throughout the day. And I was reading so broadly, and I'm finding these connections, and I'm like, let me just rehearse it, and I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up and remember them, and I wouldn't, and I'd be so upset. So I'm like, okay, pocket notebook. Anytime I have it, I'm trying to not just like offload it and forget about it, but I want to put it there and I can think about it later. And then I thought, there's a whole bunch of them up there. I have 10 years of pocket notebooks now. Um, Someone could read through those if they could interpret them because I have sloppy handwriting, and they would have like a deep insight into who I am. And so I was thinking, like, does my mind extend out into my notebooks? And this is actually a theory in the philosophy of mind, an external mind, like thesis. And David Chalmers and Andy Clark talk about this, and they give us a really cool example of a really thought-provoking example of someone with Alzheimer's, and they have a notebook, and it tells them how to get around the town, and it gives
Right.
them everything they need. It's like Memento, the movie. If you took away that guy's notebook, like you're taking away a big part of who he is actually, because that's how he's navigating the world through his own thoughts. And so it looks like maybe your mind extends out into there, but then it's like, well, what is your mind? Is it a type of thing that can be extended, or are those just your thoughts? Is your mind your thoughts? And so I'm luring people in, and we're talking about that, and then I get them thinking about it, and then I say, okay, back to it, back to the pocket notebook. If you want to hear more about this, you can watch my podcast. I'm not trying to overload you or anything like that, but I do want to whet your appetite into philosophy, and that's the price you pay for learning the little tricks about keeping a pocket notebook. So, um, I think it's useful because I wanted to ask you this, like if you think I'm a booktuber, because I'm not sure. Like my podcast, each one of those episodes is based around a book that I've read from the author or one of their papers. And so I'm like, the people don't really like philosophers and philosophy and theology. So the booktubers are like big into fantasy, big into science fiction and horror. So I don't know if they would like consider me that, but I do talk about books on Park Notes, but it's also like Cal Newport books, and those aren't like, okay, but I did talk about Dune, so I do. So I'm not really sure if I am a booktuber or not, if they have welcomed me in yet, and maybe you can because you're a booktuber. But I think it's useful because I see on Instagram people will send me like pictures of their notebooks, and they're like, I'm just trying this one out because of Park Notes, or people will come back later and say, hey, I did try this one out. I really liked this, this, and this. And so I've created this really cool community on accident in the YouTube comment section where a bunch of these people have been keeping notebook. I've been keeping this for at least 10 years now. So I think a lot of people actually resonate with that. This is not something I've just picked up. I've been doing at least 7 or 8 different methods of this on accident, only then to discover other people do them as well. Then I studied there's a rich history going all the way back to Aristotle about commonplaces and commonplace books, how that's changed. Theologians have done it forever. So it's cool because I'm kind of an expert in that now, and people like the expertise. They like to see that, and then they will change things. And I've watched some other notebook tube kind of people, journal tube, whatever it is. I've learned some from them. Some I'm just like, man, I can't watch it. I can't do this. I will watch Jared's. I try not to watch too many of the ones that are like mine until I'm done with them because I don't want to like try accidentally, steal any of his stuff or anything like that. I'm not sure. I think he watches my stuff, but I don't know. So I think it's the second one, man. I have noticed in the booktube world, like I really don't understand the I forgot the word. I said it earlier. When you collect them and then you show
Book
a book
haul.
haul. I kind of don't get that. Um, and maybe because someone can explain it in the comments. Like, leave a comment right now. Why do you like watching those? I would watch them if they were. This is old school art by Bob Pepper. Bob Pepper's the man. He's awesome. That's the tattoo I have on my arm. There's
Nice.
another one. I forgot who this is by, but so I'm a collector too. I like collecting these things. If you came up with a book haul and you said like, I found these rare books, I'm like, dude, let me see those. Because I've only seen a picture of them online. But when it's like from Barnes and Noble and these are modern books, most of the modern covers aren't very good anyways. Like Starship Troopers, the new cover's so bad. The old one's awesome. It's got this old school guy. It's kind of like, I want to watch those. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not, but a lot of people really like that. So that's different than like the journal tube. And I think I'm accidentally in the journal tube world. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I threw a
you're
lot at you. What do you think?
no, yeah, that's good stuff. I think most people tend to like these book hauls for the reason I mentioned, the cynical reason I mentioned. But if I'm being charitable, why do I sometimes like book hauls? Well, uh, sometimes when you send a booktuber a book, what happens then is you send it to them because you really appreciate them and you have a feeling of gratitude. I've sent Mike from Mike's books some books, and I'm friends with him. He's been on my channel
Yeah.
several times. Oh, I actually have been on a show with Jared once. I was on
Yeah. I saw that.
Joe. Oh, you did see
I,
that?
I
Okay.
didn't I didn't watch it. I saw you reference it.
Yeah.
'Cause I need to track that down. Yeah.
Nice guy, and yeah, absolutely. Um, so one reason is I think a lot of people who send booktubers stuff want to see the creator's face lighten up
Yeah.
and want to be thanked publicly, which is a lovely thing.
Sure.
Um, indie novelists want to send someone. We'll just use Mike as an example. Want to send Mike their books so that Mike will hold it up and say, "Oh, look at this beautiful cover! Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Thanks for sending me this and check it out."
Does that
Um,
count? Does that count as a book haul? I always thought book hauls were like I went to half price. Well, half price books would be something, but
Well, when
it's a
you get
Barnes and
big
Noble.
enough,
Yeah,
like
it's like
Mike, people
yeah.
send him stuff, really
So
nice
would
books.
he count? Does he? I haven't watched enough of his stuff to know. I do watch some of his stuff, but I haven't watched enough to know. Would he consider it a book haul if he went to his PO box and got a bunch of books?
Yeah, it's book haul if people send it to him,
Okay.
if he bought it like at the store,
Okay.
if he actually even does a segment of Kindle books that he bought and then he just, films it.
Okay.
And the other reason I like those is I like seeing new editions of books and
Hmm.
different covers. I'm a tactile person, so I actually like to see people handling books, and I myself like to smell and handle and
I'm the same
touch
way. Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I'm very Western and maximalist in that sense. I like to fill my house with pretty things
Me
and
too.
feel life's abundance. I'm very Dickensian in that way.
Hmm.
Um, but oh yeah, and the other thing, and see, like I'm way less effective than you because I need to start writing this stuff down because I won't remember it. When you were talking about mind extension theory, I'd never heard of that, but my first thought was that that is very logical. And I think like as Westerners, we're very used to the types of arguments like that.
Hmm.
What you said reminded me of like John Locke's labor theory of property, the idea that like property rights actually spring forth uh deductively. They're extrapolated from your basic like right to life. Obviously,
Hmm.
Locke's argument was if you have a right to your life, then you have a right to your body. If you have a right to your body, you have a right to what you do with it. If you have a right to what you do with it, you have a right to mix your labor with the land. And when you do so, all the value that accrues to that land is a consequence of your labor. Your labor is your time is your money is your property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, you can make like identity over time, object metaphysics arguments about, well, if were it not for property rights in the Lockean sense, you wouldn't actually be able to breathe in because you're constantly breathing in and excreting matter. So you
Hmm.
have to have some legal way to appropriate property from a state of nature, et cetera, et cetera. You know these undergraduate arguments that you learn.
You're killing it though. These are great, dude.
But I
You're doing
was
a great
thinking
job.
about how similar, and it also, Parker, makes me so sad because I'm constantly thinking about the fact that I have a hard time remembering things a lot. I'll read a book and then a year and a half goes by and I forget
Yeah.
I forget a lot about that book. And
Mhm.
then I think about the fact that that reminds me of my creatureliness and it reminds me of how fickle and ephemeral this unity we call consciousness actually is.
Mhm.
And just how how we tend to think, oh, I read a book and it becomes part of this like database or this like vault of knowledge. And actually like it doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
We are so much less solid. And I know that that's not a very Christian thing to say, but we're just so everything's just coming in and out. Our minds are not, what do they call them? Steel traps or
Steel
whatever.
trap. Yeah.
They're just not. And so to even remember what I was thinking about like 10 seconds ago and to need to write it down, which I do. I'm
Mm.
not any smarter than you at all. I need to be doing what you're doing because I always forget stuff. And 10 seconds will go by and I forgot what I wanted to say to you.
Mhm.
And that just reminds me of how like um I don't know, there's something sad about that. Because we tend to not view ourselves that way. What do you
Well,
think about that?
yeah, and we have an idealized view too of ourselves as if because I'm just like you, dude. I love information. I said input's my top trait on Strength Finders. I want it to come in and I don't want it to go out. Some of it though, okay, that is like who we are as human beings, and it may not be beneficial to our flourishing if it were different. So thinking about putting a Elon Musk chip in your brain, well, I'm going to expand my memory. I'll remember everything. And it's like
Ugh,
that may not be actually good for you. And
yeah.
you may not enjoy the book the same way because maybe when you're reading the book and you're siphoning out the most important things like Dune Messiah, I like more than Dune. And I hate to say that. I don't like that about me. But the philosophy that Herbert injected into Dune Messiah impacted me at the time of my life and changed my view of philosophy, where I'm like, analytic philosophy isn't everything. I want to know Dostoevsky. I want to know Nietzsche. I want to know all this stuff because truth suffers from too much analysis. That's absolutely true. And he just meant it as a proverb to throw in his book. And it changed my whole life. So I could tell, like, I just reread it, so I could tell you the story. But beforehand, there was characters in there I just completely forgot about. But I'm like, but I still appreciate the book. It radically changed my life. But do I need to know every single plot and subplot and word on the page? I think I do, but that's wrong. Like, you know what I mean? I'm one of the guys who's like, yeah, you should know that if you're going to talk about it. But it's like, no, it's not how we are. And maybe it would be bad if we did. Maybe it wouldn't, right? I'm just speculating.
Me too. I'm
Um,
very neurotic in that way. Like, I have a very sequential, I keep using the term Western, but I have a very sequential Western mind. I have this neurotic need to know what's happening before I proceed. I can't read someone like Steven Erickson. I
hmm,
can't read someone like Thomas Pynchon or Malcolm Lowry or any of these sort of avant-garde, weird, modernist writers or
yeah,
postmodernist writers, James Joyce. I can't read Ulysses because I'll be stuck. I'll be stuck at the beginning of the book. I'll
yeah.
never be able to proceed. Um, Tell me about this note taking. I thought of making a video about this. It's probably a very silly idea, and maybe no one will be able to connect with it. But I actually got this idea from watching your videos, your park notes, and I said to myself, wow, those videos do so well for him. And I don't think I want to ever start a second channel for that, but I might make one video. And that one video will be about how I learn things. And the way I learn things, because you were giving all this useful advice about what you do. And I thought, when I'm studying, what do I do?
Hmm.
And what I do is I take notes uh, as if I'm going to be teaching it really soon.
Yeah.
So I pretend that everything that I'm reading, I'm going to be like any nonfiction book,
Yeah.
especially not fun, like breezy fiction books. If I'm
Mm,
making a review, then I'll do some kind of notes. But
okay.
if I really want to like learn some, like Jonathan Haidt's new book just
Hmm.
came out, and I've got to read that at some point about what social media is doing to us. Well, the way I'll read that is I'm going to take notes in a way that would help me out if I were having to teach that. So I
Yeah.
pretend, whether it's true or not, that I'm going to be teaching that in a classroom setting. And you don't go all the way on that. You don't start making up materials and assignments or
Yeah.
whatever. But I would think to myself, how would I, okay, I've just gotten through 3 chapters. How would I summarize that information? How would I organize my notes if I was going to teach that information? I'm not making PowerPoints or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I'm taking notes as if I'm going to have to get up at a Toastmasters seminar and actually explain it to people. That's better than teaching. That take notes as if you're going to have to explain it to people when you're done. What do you think of that? Would that be
I that
useful to
that
teach people?
that's I think you should make that video. I think you should also make a video on how you do your book reviews because that should be part of BookTube, and it's not, but it should be. Like, there's a lot of people who do book reviews, and I not everyone's doing them the same way. It'd be actually really fascinating to find out that everyone does it the same way, and we go, boom, it is. It's not though. People are doing way differently.
It's true.
Um, I just had Jess of the Shire on, and I don't know if she's
I
considered
saw
in
that one.
BookTube or
That
not.
was great.
She's fantastic, and I asked her about her. She's an essayist, and she's a theater dork, right? So
Yep.
she's super good at both of those. But I'm like, Jess, how do you do it? Do you spend all week? She's like, no, I just take a day. Someone else would be like, no, I have to do 2 months of it, and I have to run it by someone.
Holy
So
cow.
it's really fascinating. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
like, how are you doing it? So I think your book reviews you should definitely do on that, and how you learn. Um, just the one thing is like sometimes people get nervous about sharing their tips because they think they need to be the expert in it. Just all you have to do is hedge a little bit. And this is where the philosopher comes out. You just hedge and say, hey, look, this is how I do it. I'm not saying I'm the best YouTuber in the whole world or anything like that. This has been really helpful for me. And actually, if you have any tips for me, leave them in the comments. And it's not just a comment to get the algorithm going. This is genuine. If you comment, it will help my algorithm.
Yeah.
However, if you have a good, helpful tip, like I've changed a lot of the stuff that I do, or I've added new things into my life because of the YouTube comments on Park Notes. Parker's Pensie's terrible. A lot of people just they're like the know-it-alls on that channel. So like, you're a guest an idiot. I'm like, well, my guest is a philosopher at Oxford, dude. He's not an idiot. But on the Park Notes channel, they give me so many good tips and book I've heard about Rockio's book, the Sun Eater series, first from my comment section,
Oh, wow.
then from Jared Henderson, and then from my theologian friends actually reading it. So um, I think if you were like, here's how I learn stuff, let me know in the comments if you do this too or something similar, or if you have some tips for me. And then you'll find that someone will leave like an amazing comment, get 5,000 likes, and then everyone's like, thanks for this, right? And you made this little community on one video. And I just love that, man. I think
Yeah.
that's the best part of YouTube. I've always loved YouTube from like the beginning. I think learning YouTube stuff, that's the best, dude. There's some
Mm.
bad stuff on here too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's some weird politics that like they don't push certain people and they push others. Like I was so frustrated because my Parker's Pensie's finally starting to grow. It's only growing because of Park Notes though. You know what I mean? Like I put so many 250, 260 episodes on there, just slow trickle. And then finally Park Notes helped it. So I definitely think you should. And I learned the same way. So all my pocket notebooks, I started writing them because I wanted to do a blog. And I'd thought about this 3 years before I started my blog. So I had 3 years worth of notebooks where I would put like I put a title. I talk about this sometimes on Park Notes, but not always. So like one of my science fiction stories I just wrote, it's the first thing was even the mushrooms cry out, but I changed the title. You can't really see it, but I block out the top of that. And then I write as if I'm telling someone something, right? So like if I have a good idea for a video or something, all my stuff kind of comes through. How would I teach this to someone? How would I make this compelling? What else can I pull in here? And then a lot of times, like I haven't made 10 years worth of videos from my pocket notebooks, but I do know that stuff because I'm actually ended up teaching myself. I'm my main audience. For all of my channels, it's always me. So if you like me, you're going to like my stuff a lot because I'm teaching us, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, part of that insight for me came when I realized that I was really not learning that much in I mean, I learned a lot in undergrad, but I was realizing that I being a teacher forces you to learn
100%.
things so deeply
Yeah.
and so meticulously. And then having to teach it and then repeat it again and then repeat it
Mhm.
again and being peppered with questions that you never thought of and then refining it. Once you've taught something, man, do you know it
Yeah.
in a way that you just, and the pressure that's put on you because you have class in 20 minutes and you've got to distill this idea to teach it and stuff like that. So that's where that idea came to me as I thought, well, you could do that if you had enough discipline, you could do that without even being a teacher. Um, but uh, but
Well, that's huge. And I made a video on how to it's basically like how to teach yourself new topics like you were in a university. And it's just pretending that you're in a university. Like
right.
there's enough YouTube stuff. It just takes a little bit of work to find it, but then make yourself a playlist, set times throughout the week, give yourself, 2 hours on Tuesday, Thursday, and then, set like writing assignments where you're starting a blog or, you need a little community. Community's huge. You need to talk
Yeah,
like that. You can study philosophy on your own. This is going back to a question you had earlier. If you're in the academy and you're talking with other students, that you're going to learn so much more. Everything I've learned was from discussing with other students and talking with the professors in their office hours. So Parker's Pensies is just an office hours conversation. I read your stuff. I don't care to go through the points that they can read in the paper. I have questions for you. So like the best way to consume my stuff is to read what I read. And then it's a lot of the same questions you had. I'm just asking the author. So, dude, do those videos. That'd be awesome. I want to see
yeah.
more booktube like the stuff behind it too, because some of these people, man, they'll read so many books, and I don't know, some of them are probably faking, but some aren't. And it's like, how'd you get so good at reading? It's like, well, I just read a lot. Like, no, you don't. Exactly. Tell me like, how do you
Exactly.
make time for it? And let's, yes, you read a lot, but how did you carve that out? How did you become that type of reader? Yeah,
That's
I
right.
think that's helpful.
That's right. So, do you have 5 minutes left? I wanted to do one
Yeah, man.
last
Yeah, we're
thing, and
cool.
it'll take about 5 minutes. I want to do, if you're up for it, we don't have to. I could ask you another thing, but
Hmm.
I want to do rapid fire 20 questions with you. You up
Yeah.
for that?
Can I say two more things that I wrote down that I wanted to touch on before we do it?
Do it. Let's do it right
Okay,
now.
so the extended mind thing, if we talk about this and we talk about David Chalmers and Andy Clark,
Yeah.
most people are not going to care. But if you say, "Hey, do you guys know Harry Potter? Do you know about Horcruxes?" He like put himself in the notebook. That's kind of what you're doing with your notebooks, right? Like if you're journaling and like so you lure people in through fantasy and science fiction. Those themes are there anyways. And actually that's a really profound thing she did with the Horcruxes. That's
Yep.
really fascinating, and it has a analog in modern analytic philosophy. Super cool. I think that's how you teach people stuff. Um, and then I wrote down storytelling God. So I said I did my master's thesis on this, but part of the reason I wanted to get into writing my own stuff again is because I'm just convinced that like the way God interacts with the world is like an author does with their story.
I love
And
that.
so there's like the problem of evil, which a lot of people will pose and say, how could God exist if there's no evil? Or if there's evil? He wouldn't. If he was good and he knew everything and he's all powerful, there wouldn't be evil. And then you're like, well, tell me about your favorite story. And they're like, yeah, it's this and that. And it's like, did the protagonist have to go through something like horrible in order to come out the other side as the character that the author wanted them to be? Yes, of course. And like, all right, well, let's talk back about God again, being the author of the universe. Like the Old Testament says he created by his word, right? So he's an author. He authored the world in an analogous fashion. He didn't use a pen and paper, but he used words and spoke the universe out into being.
That's such a clever modern version of theodicy. I really like that. I
Yeah,
think
so that was my big thing. Yeah.
that would be very compelling, I think, to young people.
Yeah,
Wow.
I hope so. So that's the way I think of it. And then you think of yourself like, hey, I'm in a story. I'm not the main character of the entire story of the universe. But the Christian story is a story. It's a grand meta narrative. And the continental folks are like, no, no meta narratives. And like, no, this is a good meta narrative. I'm not trying to like. So it's creation, fall, or creation, rupture, redemption, and fulfillment. So like creation, God created the world. He spoke it out, and He made us in His image. Why do we have rights and stuff? We would say because we're image bearers of God. We have that spark of divinity in us. But
Well,
our
that's your
relationship
answer
with
to that question. You may not be the main character, but you're created in the image of God.
it's crazy, dude. You have like infinite value and worth. It's insane. You're the main character of your story, and He's telling that, and it has so much value because it's weaved into the grand story. And you actually do matter. Everything you do does matter. But rupture, we choose ourselves instead of God, or we want to be the main character. We want to be God ourselves. We don't want someone telling us what to do unless they're telling us what we want to do. Redemption, that's where the author stepped into a story, like Tolkien does in The Great Divorce, or just other stories where the main where the author is one of the characters. So that's what we say in Christianity. And then Tolkien has this idea of eucatastrophe in his stuff on fairy stories, where he says all the good things, all the bad things become untrue, and it's like a divine comedy, right? So we live in a divine comedy. Things are getting pretty dark, but he's weaving things together so that in the end we'll be like, "Oh, dude, I get it." The best storyteller ever told, or the best story ever told. So I just wanted to throw that in because that's
Yeah,
actually reignited my love for books because I think we actually live in a novel. My Kevin Van Hooser would say a theodrama,
love
but
that.
I like actually saying like, no, we live in a straight up novel, dude. Yeah.
This is all very, the way you explained that was very Jordan Peterson. And I went through a very heavy Jordan Peterson phase. I just said phase. That makes it sound very dismissive. I love Jordan Peterson. I think he's
Sure.
great. But I guess I would call it a phase because I inundated myself with his stuff and then actually went to a live show
Hmm.
uh, with my wife. And she actually brought some of her students, which, like if the administration had found out about that, it would have been
Yeah.
actually they wouldn't have cared, of course, but she would have her colleagues would have seen her differently. But no, he was immensely useful in I think the turn back to religion that I was talking about earlier. Um, religious people, you really kind of orthodox religious people tend to get on his case, tend to get on him
Yeah.
about his wishy-washiness, about his strict and literal belief in God and things like that. You just have to remember how effective a lot of his stuff is for people who have been secular for a really long time and
Yeah.
who have been weaned on Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and
Hmm.
these other sort of modern, sort of atheist humanist types, which that was me all throughout college. And so this was like, okay, this guy understands me, but he's also telling me about these stories. And you brought up Andrew Clavin earlier. He's been a similar figure for me. Um, but yeah,
Well, dude, so I work with guys like you, and it Peterson, I guess he kind of fell off after the benzo stuff, and after that he people think he's too political and stuff, and I haven't really caught up with him a whole ton, but I had some friends from Canada who sent me like a support Jordan Peterson thing right when he was first getting popular, and I read all of his stuff. I read Maps of Meaning, and I wrote a paper on
I
it.
did too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
you
I
wrote a
like
paper on it.
yeah,
Very
so there's
cool.
notes all throughout there, and I analyzed him according to the creation, fall, redemption, consummation. Like, how Christian is he? You know, because and he's not, and he has this shifting morality, and he's kind of because he's an evolutionist and he's hardcore. So it's like, let's just get clear on who he is. He's great for what he does, and
Hmm.
he's not the coming second coming of Christ. He's not like the worst guy in the world. Like, here's who he is. He's helpful. This is helpful stuff. So all that to say, like, yeah, I like him. I know right now he's kind of a firebrand in a different way than he was before, even.
I don't
Um,
even know if I would view him that way. You actually might be right. As you say, I haven't been following him closely enough.
yeah.
I think what it is that when I first got into him, I was passionate about the cause he was fighting for,
Mm,
especially on free speech grounds, but also on substantive grounds. But even more than that, what I really got into him for was I went through both of those college courses he taught, the Maps of Meaning one and the
mm.
personality one, and I just learned so
Oh
much.
yeah,
And
dude, he's so
then
good at that.
at that point, right then when I was like really getting into it, he came out with the biblical lectures,
Yeah,
and so he's not really doing that as much anymore.
yeah,
And
that's true.
so the what people experience of him now is Twitter
Mhm.
and the conversations that he has with like political figures on his podcast. And then I guess if you go see him at his tours and stuff like that. But um
That's a great point, dude. Yeah, like um, his psychology stuff is actually really fascinating, and talk analyzing Disney myths and stuff, and
oh,
rescuing your father from the underworld,
beautifully
and
done.
and that's he communicates Jungian philosophy in a really interesting way, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like I don't think he ever did one on Dune, and he should have. So I'm going to
Oh
steal that
gosh,
idea.
yeah.
But it's like, yeah, the Kwisatz Haderach, the Kwisatz Haderach or whatever. That's just freaking Jungian unconscious, collective unconscious coming awake in an individual. Like that's gold, dude. That's
It
gold.
is gold. All
Yeah,
right,
sorry.
man.
So I extended it a little bit farther here. Sorry
Oh
about
no,
that.
absolutely. I'm happy to have it. So let's do 20 questions. I'm going to ask you 20 very quick questions. Please try to answer them in 30 seconds or less so we can get to know you better here.
Yeah,
You ready to go?
let's do it.
All right. Plato or Aristotle? You can only keep one.
Plato.
Okay. Why?
Aristotle is too empirical, and his view of the forms are no good.
Got you. Two, continental or analytic philosophy? You can only keep one.
Uh, I guess analytic.
Okay. Three, J.R.R. Tolkien or C.S. Lewis? You can only keep one.
C.S. Lewis.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
And for me, it's J.R.R. Tolkien, but only because the only thing I've read of C.S. Lewis's is um, I grew up on Lion, the
Narnia.
Witch, and the Wardrobe and all of
Yeah.
that.
Out
And
of the Silent Planet, dude. You got to read it.
Out of the Silent Planet, I just read a book by Sohrab Ahmari where he spends an entire chapter talking about Out of the Silent Planet, and I actually wrote an article about his book, the Unbroken Thread. See, that's the memory thing.
Yeah.
Yes, the Unbroken Thread, and I've read all about Out of the Silent Planet. You've actually read it.
So good. It's
So
gold.
good.
It comes from real quick. Okay, I'm gonna do it
Yeah,
fast.
yeah,
It
yeah.
comes from a wager with Tolkien. They said, "Hey, we don't like the philosophy going on in science fiction right
Oh
now, Golden Age
yeah,
stuff." So they flipped a coin and they said, heads you do time travel, I do space travel. Tails the opposite. And so it came up whatever heads, and Tolkien or Lewis is like, "Fine, I'll do space travel." Tolkien, you do time travel, and Tolkien never finished his, but this came from a bet with
that's
Tolkien.
awesome.
I love that. The
Yeah, I
story's so
have
good.
Abolition of Man on my TBR as well, but Tolkien's just been too large in my life to but it could have been Lewis. If I had read more Lewis, then
Yeah.
I might have a dilemma on my on
Lewis
my
is he studied philosophy at Oxford, right? So he's a philosopher. He writes a short or he writes a essay first. So the Abolition of Man was this poison of subjectivism. Turned that into a book against this kid's book about English that he thought was indoctrinating people against passion and joy and all that stuff. And then he turned that into That Hideous Strength, the book. So
ah
I just absolutely love that idea. Write
yeah.
write an essay about it, write a book about it, put it into fiction. Like get the ideas out there. Oh, so good.
Yeah, my colleague really wants me to read Mere Christianity, and then what's the other one?
Miracles, maybe?
Oh, I forget. No, it wasn't that one. Um
A Great Divorce, a grief.
oh, I think it was The Great Divorce.
Okay. That's
And
pretty
then
good.
I took a course called History and Structure of the English Language in graduate school. And I did my research paper in that class about the word romantic or the word nature and how the
Yeah.
word nature has changed and how it used to mean something different. And then the romantics essentially changed the meaning of that word from like natio, meaning like birth,
Hmm.
natal and all that stuff,
Yeah.
to nature as this kind of wild, lush, overgrown woods, countryside versus city, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I read an essay by C.S. Lewis about that very topic, and that was like super helpful for me. So that's the only other thing I've read of his.
That's so funny that you read that because like I have a whole bookshelf of Lewis. I'm a evangelical, so I kind of
Oh,
have to, right? That's like kind
yeah,
of our thing. If
yeah,
you're an evangelical scholar, you have to. And he's the guy on romantics. Like romantic
yeah.
love became romantic love in this period of time where he was an expert in. And so he saw like that whole shift and he read everything there was to read about it. So yeah,
Oh.
man, we could talk Lewis all day. Yeah.
All right. Number four, Frodo or Sam? You can only keep one.
Sam, of course, got to go with Sam, man.
Oh, heck yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Number five, this is going to be hard. Your favorite living philosophers, you can only pick three.
Dang. Um, Thomas Nagel hasn't done a whole ton in a while. I just absolutely love the way
He's
he thinks. I,
great.
I think he's like the most honest philosopher ever because he'd be like, this totally goes against what I believe, and I don't want to believe this, but here it is. And he's influenced so many subgenres. So there's one. Um, I really like Chalmers. Some people are like, no, Chalmers, dude. I don't know, man. I really like. He's so goofy, and he'll pick. Like he wrote a whole book on the simulation hypothesis, and he did a really good job, and read every science fiction book about it to talk about it. So there's another, and Oh man, dude, it's so tough. I'm trying to think of all the people in my podcast so I don't hurt their feelings or anything. Um, Probably another philosopher. Oh, living, you said he's got to be living?
Living.
Dude, who do I like that's living? That's like my favorite. Um, Trying to think. This is tough, man. Who do I like that's really good? Um, Maybe I'll pick like someone that I'm friends with.
Yeah, do it.
Um, this is a tough one, man. I think maybe what the heck is your name, dude? I can't
Michael
think of it.
Humor.
No, but humor is I really like humor. We could maybe say humor because I could say humor because of his variety.
Yeah,
He does so many different things
the
and you read them and you're like,
generalist. I love that.
and he actually is a really good writer. So that's a
Yeah,
good one. I'll just
he
stick
is.
with that
Fake
for now.
news.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, Chalmers has done such a service to philosophy.
Yeah.
Man, he's great. Yeah. Okay. Number six, your favorite dead philosophers. You have to pick three.
Yeah. Augustine is the man. He like invented the like linear theory of time, which is pretty wild, and memoirs. And he invented the cogito, which is fantastic. It was, si fallor sum, or whatever how you say it in Latin. The academics of the time were like, "Hey, man, what if you're wrong about your existence?" The academics, the guys from Plato, his academy, became skeptics because they thought that was the Socrates way. And he's like, "Look, even if I'm mistaken, I exist." And so I love that. So
Yeah.
him. Dude, I really like Descartes, and I used to hate Descartes. So I think I have to pick him because I he changed my mind so much. And actually, you actually read him, and you're like, dude, I he's a genius. You don't have to agree with him and everything,
Undeniable.
but super smart. And then I probably have to go with Pascal because his the pensée like they I'll say pensée because it's French. It actually is the name of the book, right? So it's not
Yeah.
my pod because it's Pensées. Part of that was it was published posthumously, so he didn't complete it. And I thought, hey man, I'm who am I to write a blog or have a podcast? And I was like, well, whatever. I don't want to have all these like loose thoughts never accomplished or whatever. Luckily, he was a beast, and so they published him afterwards. But he has the Pensée is amazing. He's got really good like political thoughts where he's like, hey man, why am I there's nothing sillier than like that guy across the river has the right to kill me because my prince is mad at his prince and we're at war. It makes no sense. And I'm like, wow, that's really lucid and clear and amazing. So he's like the wisdom tradition brought all the way forth into the 1600s, 1700s, whenever he was. Yeah.
Okay. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
One person. I'm gonna stick with like a philosopher because people is too. It'd probably be Teddy Roosevelt if it was non-philosopher
Whoa,
because that dude was the man. I love that guy. I don't agree with his like politics always, but just a he got shot in the chest and then
that's a
kept
good
doing
choice, man.
got shot in the chest, then went and gave a speech afterwards. If it was philosophers, I'd say Hillary Putnam. I think he's like
Oh,
one of the best
yeah.
philosophers of all time. Just amazing. Really
Oh
cool guy
man,
too.
you are such a super analytic philosophy guy.
Yeah,
Wow,
man.
your head is in that world. I miss those
Yeah,
days, and I get it, man. I get it.
yeah.
This one's about how you read: hardcover, paperback, e-reader, or audiobook, or some combination of the aforementioned.
I like collecting the hardcovers and reading the soft covers. Um, there's probably something wrong with me. I probably have a weird like hoarding obsession. But yeah, I really like to have the hardcovers. I really like writing in the soft. It's just easier to write in soft covers, and so I write in all my books if I can. Yeah.
Who's your favorite Stoic and why? Number nine.
Um, it's probably Marcus because he's or Marcus Aurelius. Not like we're on a first name basis or whatever.
My bro
Um,
Mark.
yeah, right. He he like contradicts himself in the meditations, and I really like that. He's not trying to write a piece. Seneca's really cool too, right? Like he's good, but I mean, there's more systematic thinkers for sure, but there's a reason that everyone knows the meditations. It's because they're really good. They're profound. Plus, he's got this amazing quote in there that life is more like a wrestling match than a dance.
Ah,
And I'm like, let's go, dude. Like anything that talks about wrestlers. Yeah.
uh, Desert Island philosophy books. You can only pick one. This book will be the philosophy book you're that the only one that you're able to read for the rest of your life. So which one is it?
Maybe I'd pick City of God because it's gigantic. I could actually finally finish it.
You'd have more to do that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you got like some Roman Empire stuff in there too. So you're like, okay, there's some Roman classicism, there's some good philosophy at the end,
Yeah.
especially. And so, yeah, thick old book.
All right. 11, Desert Island novels. You can only pick one. It's the only book you'll ever be able to read. Which do you choose?
Okay, probably The Count of Monte Cristo,
Oh,
or I might go, or Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
there
Oh,
you
there's
go.
Dune too. I'll just say
Oh
Count of Monte
man.
Cristo. I'll
Okay.
stick with that one.
Yeah. Androids might be too short for your
Yeah,
Desert
that's what I was
Island book.
thinking.
You
Yeah,
need something to entertain you.
right.
Um, okay. This is a hard one. What number 12, what is the philosophy that you feel has done the most harm to the world?
Hmm, dude, give me cancel here. Um,
Philosophy. It could be political philosophy if you want, or
I'm
it could
thinking
be
political philosophy, but
okay.
um, dude, I don't know. I think probably like communism. Sorry, everyone out there. Um,
Yeah.
I understand, right? But like, I don't think it's been great. And maybe you can say it hasn't been officially, established, but that people who tried to do that have made a mess of things, right? So maybe I'll go
Right.
with that.
Yeah, neither has libertarianism, but the closer you get to communism, the worse your society is. The more that it falls apart, the more that the skinnier people get.
Yeah, that's what I
Wow, that's
think.
interesting. I was not even thinking that you were going to go political philosophies, but yeah, if you go there, then I happen to agree with that. Your favorite woman philosopher, number 13.
Yeah. Oh man. Sharon Street is an analytic philosopher that a lot of people won't know about, but she's got some really, really cool arguments. Uh, I really like Sharon Street. There was someone I was thinking about the other day, and I can't remember who it was. But people always ask me, like, dude, have you read a woman in the last like 10 years? Someone was like making this in the comments the other day. And I'm like, I have, but I just don't read the existentialist women that Like all that's all that people know about, but I don't actually really like them that much. I like analytic philosophers, and so you wouldn't know any of the ladies that I read, like, but they're there and they're beasts. I'll probably stick with Sharon Street. She's a monster. She got this really cool argument about morality on evolution and how they come apart. And the conclusion is like you don't want it to be true if you're not a theist or something. And she's not a theist herself. It's just goofy. She's really sharp, really clear, good arguer. Yeah.
Phew, I thought you were going to say Martha Nussbaum. So
No, people want. She's cool, but yeah,
she's all right.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Number 14, if you had to live in a foreign country, which would you choose?
Switzerland.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, beautiful,
Nice.
guns everywhere. Yeah. I
Number
just hear good
15.
things about. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm
No,
trying to
go.
just trying to justify that. I hear good things about Switzerland. A lot of cool like thinkers came out of like the Swiss Alps. They had some really good thoughts out there and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay,
It's a
that's
very
enough.
free country,
Yeah.
property rights, good governance.
Yeah.
Number 15, is pineapple on pizza good?
I don't think so, man. I don't want to be. I hate being cliche. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like pineapples don't go on pizza. But I'm like they kind of don't though, man. They just kind of like don't. And you can everyone who likes that is like, well, you haven't tried it at this place. And it's like, all right, well, then that's an exception, right? If that's the case, then they go on pizza at this one place because they do this, and you don't really think of it as pizza. And all right, well, that's like dying the death of a
No,
thousand
you're right.
qualifications.
You're right. It's about and I like pineapple on pizza, but whatever your answer is going to be, it should be about the gastronomy of it. It should be about flavors and acidity and what's going
Mm,
to complement your palate when those two things are mixed together.
yeah.
I'm an aesthetic realist. I'm
Mm,
an aesthetics person. So that's what it should be about, not oh, this one place makes it
yeah,
better than this other place.
for sure. For sure.
16, is water wet?
Oh yeah. Okay.
These annoying perennial questions.
I can't remember why I landed on this. because it would be really helpful if I could just be like, no, here's why I thought it was or wasn't.
You can just
Um,
say no if you want.
no, dude, you got to. I'll be quick. Water is not wet, but it does make things wet. I'll say that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I agree with that. Number 17, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Let me think. Another one, dude. These are gold. I do like these.
Ship of Theseus kind of questions, object metaphysics questions.
I don't think it is, man. I think it's its own category. Okay, wait. If sandwich is a higher order, like the broader net, it's just not. It's like you don't want to say that it is. I'm gonna say no. I'll slip into my wrestler mode instead of my analytic philosopher mode. Nope, it's not. Just
It's
own it.
about as far away as it can be from the Platonic ideal of a sandwich as anything I can think of. So I don't think it's a sandwich either.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad.
18. What is your answer to the ship of Theseus question?
Yeah.
Is it
I
one or
don't.
the other, or is it nuanced?
I kind of want to say like there is no ship of Theseus. I kind of want to say that like under the law there is a ship because you have to have some kind of rights there. But it's a fiction because the atoms are sloughed off all the time. So sometimes I'm like I want to be a mereological nihilist, and that works for substantialism, which I like. But otherwise, I think you have some weird conceptions like when he puts the last screw or hammers the last nail into the boat, now it's the ship. Why? Why think that? Why think that his action has brought along like the realization of the form of the ship? Like, I'm not sure that that's the case. So I think I might go, there is no ship of Theseus. No, frick, that's so easy. Um,
Could it be like a tool in your ongoing projects, and so that it actually becomes it's in some ways, to go back to that Lockean thing again, it's in some ways linked to you and what it enables you to do in your life, or is that a cop out?
it might be a cop out, dude. I
Okay.
think if you said like the biggest thing is it's the historian who collects the other parts as they're sloughed off, and now he's collected the whole original ship.
Right.
I'm a collector, so I'm like, that would be me. I would collect that ship. And I'd be like, look, everyone, come pay $5 and look at the ship of Theseus. And meanwhile, Theseus is still riding around in his boat. And he's like, nah, this is my ship because, I still own this and I'm still operating it. So it really depends on like what you're analyzing it by. But I think there is a fact of the matter. And I just don't know if you're a mereological essentialist, then as soon as one atom comes off, it's not the ship anymore. If you're not nihilist, you're like, physical objects don't exist. I think I might be leaning more towards physical objects don't exist, which is such a bonkers view. So crazy,
Well,
but I don't know.
my professor agreed with you there that there are just mereological simples, and
Well,
really identity over time is just it's what well, he's a Buddhist, so he would say that's just conventional truth versus ultimate truth. And
mhm. You
um
could still believe in both on that view though. So like maybe you are a mereological simple, it's your soul, right? And so
yeah.
like yeah, so you're associated with the simples that you're an ordered aggregate of but I don't think that's true either. I think lives I think that substances exist. I'm a like, substance ontology. I don't think the boat is a substance in itself, if that makes sense. So even though I think you are, especially when you're embodied on the boat, I think I don't
Boat
think that
doesn't have memories or anything like that,
well,
or
the boat
any.
doesn't have the powers of a substance. It doesn't have the normal powers associated that substance has. So it might be also like a powers ontology there too, but um this is not rapid fire. I'm sorry, man.
No, that's okay. Yeah, because it gets really complicated. It's like I remember that case of Wild Bill Hickok and where he got shot. And let's see, the place, the saloon that he got shot in. Uh, they then said that this saloon was the famous place, and it became a tourist site where Wild Bill Hickok was shot. And then that place moved next across the street, and they opened up a saloon across the street, and they kept advertising this is the place where Wild Bill Hickok got shot, and they kept the original floorboards
Mhm.
and the chairs. And okay, so they were claiming they were the place that Wild Bill Hickok died, and then the place across the street got bought out, or was was bought, the property was purchased, and the new owners opened up a saloon there and said, no, this is the place. So two places across the street from each other said this is the place where Wild Bill Hickok
Yeah.
got shot.
Well, and so those are rival conceptions of like how we're analyzing it. One is like this is the physical location,
Right.
and you have to like qualify like no, not this building is this spot is a physical spot, but if you want to see the floorboards, those are over there. So they're like no, this is the continuation of the building and the restaurant or whatever where he was killed. Just move over here. Literally, we still have his blood's on the floorboards. Okay, but technically, if we're going with like location wise, so you can like split that one up, by different. But the ship of Theseus, I don't know if it's the same. If the substance, I think substance ontology really helps. Substance have parts, properties, and powers.
Essences, they call this svabhava in
Mm.
Buddhism. Is that what you're talking about? Essences?
Yeah, essences are tricky on this view. Like I think substances might have essences as well.
You're
Um,
talking about like substance dualism, like Descartes?
well, not just substance dualism, and not like Descartes, because his view on what a substance was is really weird. It's really
Yeah.
weird. But this is a modern like analytic take on substance ontology. And it's like, what's a substance? Well, substance has properties, parts,
Right.
and powers, and maybe depending have some other things, but um there's like an organic unity to it as well. They have
Right.
inseparable parts. Like if you take away one of the parts, it no longer is part of that thing. So like
Right.
it's Aristotelian in a lot of ways. So if I cut
Right.
off my hand, it's not my hand anymore. It's not really even a hand, it's a corpse hand. When I die, it's not me any longer. It's a corpse body. So yeah, sorry, man.
No, it's all good. It's all good. That would take an entire podcast. 19. Is AI a friend or foe?
Foe,
Foe?
big time foe, dude. And not because it's gonna take over the world, but because we're gonna
It's a
lose our humanity.
demon because it's a
We're
demon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it's reaching back in time and telling me different things and changing my arms around when I die. Um, no, we're gonna lose our creativity a lot more and more. The dumbing of America, not just America, the whole world probably, but especially America. And I hear it because I'm sure people tell you this, but I get it all the time. You should have ChatGPT write a script for your thing and work on your thumbnail. I'm like, these are all things I've
Fuck
been working on
that.
my whole life. Why would I do that? No, I'm not gonna outmode my creativity to a non-thinking monster.
Never outsource your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
20. Last question. How do you care for your mustache? Do you
Mm.
wax it? How does that work? It's a beautiful
Thanks,
mustache. It's
man. I
not
appreciate that.
Nietzschean. It's I
Thank you
have
for
a
saying that, by
I
the
have
way.
a
Everyone
picture.
everyone calls it Nietzschean. It's not. He didn't
It's
this
not even close.
yeah.
It's more civilized than that. I've got a picture in my classroom of in the it's this old fashioned poster and it says real men read, and it's
Mm.
this guy with your mustache sitting on a couch with his legs crossed reading to his son. And it's my favorite poster in my whole classroom. And that your mustache looks identical to that. What do you do? How does that happen?
Yeah, it's just good old fashioned Italian genes. I'm Italian and Hispanic. Like I said, my dad was adopted, so we don't know. Back then in the 1950s, early 1950s, like Hispanic, it's all the same. It's like, am I Mexican? Am I Puerto Rican? Am I Cuban? What? Nah, you're Hispanic. It's all the same. So there's a lot of that. And when I get out of the shower, I just put beard oil in it. So I actually don't wax it unless I'm competing in jujitsu because the gets pulled out. But if I wax it and keep it nice and tight, it won't get ripped out. Other than that, I just whack or oil right after and kind of play with it. Yeah,
It looks good. Not everyone can pull it off. That's the thing you have to remember. It works for you, and you
yeah,
would have gotten rid of it a long time ago if it didn't, because it wouldn't work for me and it wouldn't work for a lot of other people, but it just fits you. It makes
thanks, man.
sense. It makes sense.
It my wife likes it, and no other woman likes it. So this is like very helpful for me.
But who cares about them?
I never have to worry about any other woman. My wife doesn't have to worry that some woman's gonna be hitting on me. Nope, I have this horrible mustache. They're staying far away. Yeah.
Perfect for a wrestler intellectual. All right, man. We're gonna cut it off here because I want to respect your time and I want to put this together and get it up online. We'll do it tonight. So thanks
Awesome.
for being on this program. It was a joy talking to you, man. Really, really had a good time.
Dude, me too. Thanks so much. This was fantastic. I'm gonna share it all over the place, and we hopefully it's just a start, man. I'd love to do this again. More
Yeah, let's do it
collabs all over the
again.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, see you, bro.
See you, man.